We are live on a Tuesday edition of the Sports Bash, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. Live video streaming on the X platform, YouTube, at Mike Gill Show. What's up, everybody? I'm your host, Mike Gill. Josh Henning has the day off today. You out there, here we go. The Eagles got to get down to 53, 2 hours from right now. And they've already begun yesterday making moves, trades over the weekend, and today they release fifth-round draft choice from last season. Anais Smith is probably one of the more notable names that has been released by the Philadelphia Eagles. We got you covered all throughout the day. Football at 4, Adam Caplan today, right at 4 o'clock when the initial 53 becomes initially finished. I'm sure between now and September 4th, there will be changes to that very roster, but we'll keep an eye on it. I don't anticipate anything crazy happening, but Anais Smith not making it. The Eagles have decided to move on from him. I think they can get him back on the practice squad. Plus, the Phillies lose last night in really embarrassing fashion. Should we get all crazy about it, or is it, hey, one of those nights? One of those lonely, crazy nights. You're up 3-0 at a place that's been a house of horrors for you, and then all of a sudden the Phillies just cannot, that game kind of turned on its head on that pickoff play, and after that, they just couldn't do anything right. I mean, the Mets just strung hit after hit after hit after hit together, and the whole thing just kind of got away from them. Now, I saw a lot of people that obviously were angry, right? You see a game like that, you're angry. You let it out, which is fair. Let it out. Let it all out. But if I'm going to lose, I'd rather lose in that fashion. We've all seen the games where you score 13 runs one night and then you can't score the next night. Now, tonight will be the telling night because the Mets just could not get out last night. Now, you put Jordan Romano in the game, and I laugh because my buddy says, why are they putting Romano in the game? And at that point, the game is still at hand. It's a 3-run game, so everybody has the right to wonder, why the heck would you put Romano in that game? He obviously has been awful. He has struggled so bad. You almost feel bad for the guy. He goes out and gets a haircut, and he's thinking, okay, maybe this will change my fortunes. And he absolutely gives the game up, and it just completely snowballs from that. 2 hits, 4 runs. He gives up the home run, obviously, and the game's over at that point. Joe Ross, who's been an absolute disaster as a signing. A lot of people like the Joe Ross signing. I think there was people who were kind of, looking at him to have that kind of swingman role. He's always been a kind of pretty consistent guy in that role in previous stops. He has just been a complete disaster for the Phillies. Before pitching in Washington, we saw him a lot with the Nationals, and last year he pitched well. He pitched pretty well with the Brewers last year. He couldn't get anybody out last night. It just got completely away from them. I think, that Alec Boehm delay, 19-minute delay, that was a problem. I don't know what was going on. There was a parabolic microphone out in center field, which, according to the postgame show, has been there since 2017, and, nobody's had a problem with it. I don't know if somebody moved it, tweaked it, whatever happened. There was a 19-minute delay, which I don't know why that took 19 minutes. It was clear what Boehm was pointing at. You saw what it was. If you're the umpire and you see that out there and he's pointing at it, you just say, get that thing out of here. What took 20 minutes to get that thing out of there? I don't know. That being said, I don't know if Boehm was just being a crybaby because nobody else seemed to have a problem with it. Now, I get it. Boehm, somebody said he didn't have a problem with it when he doubled earlier in the game. Well, he was facing a right-handed pitcher, not a left-handed pitcher. The ball out of the left-handed pitcher's hand. Now, the problem is the Phillies pitcher's left-handed. Christopher Sanchez is left-handed. So I don't know if somebody in the crowd moved it, because the way they were showing it on television, you certainly saw a glare, but I don't know if that's like that all the time. Batalico said after the game that the microphone had been out there since 2017. I don't know that that's accurate or not, McCarthy mentioned during the broadcast that they thought possibly TNT, that they're doing the game tonight, and that it was maybe their equipment that they were getting ready for the national broadcast. I have no idea. That being said, I'm not making an excuse for that whole thing. All I'm saying is I think after that happened that you probably should have got Christopher Sanchez out of that game. Right? You probably should have got Christopher Sanchez out of the game, would be my first thought. Is, okay, he had to sit for 20 minutes through that whole thing. He wasn't great to begin with. And that's not a good sign that Sanchez was not very crisp last night. 3 walks, gave up 6 runs. I think Sanchez probably pulled himself out of any Cy Young conversation if you thought he was even in the Cy Young conversation. He just didn't pitch well last night. But probably should not have gone any further than what he did after that delay. Now, you can make the argument if they don't have the delay, maybe he goes right back out there and he settles in because he's not sitting around for... Now, listen, in that inning, as Bohm grounds into the double play, that is the second out of the inning. So Real Muto gets hit, Bohm grounds into the double play, then Marsh grounds out. That inning's over pretty quickly. But between Bohm and Marsh, there's a 19-minute delay there. So Sanchez is sitting in the dugout for about 20, 25 minutes. At that point, I think that's where you say, listen, whatever the plan was before the game, we got to jump off that plan and go the other direction. I think in the 6th, Sanchez gives up a double to start that inning. So you put him out there for the 6th inning, which I don't agree with. At that point, on the double, you got to get him out of the game. I mean, he was not pitching well to begin with. He gives up a double to start the 6th after sitting on the bench for 20, 25 minutes. At that point, you probably get him out. At that point, it's 4-3. The game is still within reach. Now, you're up 3-0 in this game. Let's go back to the story here, because the story in this game is you're up 3-0 in Christopher Sanchez. This is where I thought Sanchez just didn't look like he had it. Soto singles. They get the double play, and you think, okay, this inning's over. Well, then he gives up a single. Then he gives up a double. Then he gives up a single. Then he walked. I can't remember who it was. And then he gives up another single. So you had a single, a double, a single, a walk, and a single. 5 straight base runners reach. At that point, now it's 3-3, by the way. You could feel, and I'll tell you what I saw and felt as I was watching that game. I saw and felt a Mets team who generally, if you watch the Mets and watch them play, they look just like such a non-confident bunch. And you just saw and felt a team that says, we're better than you. We don't care what the numbers say. We don't care what the records say. We don't care what the standings say. You come into this building, we're better than you are. They had the feel and the look in their face that we're just a better team than you. Now, I'm not saying the Mets are better, but I'll tell you what, they definitely feel like when you come into Citi Field that they have your number. Yes or no? 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. Mike, that was sketchy. I know a conspiracy when I see one. I don't know what the conspiracy was. Now, listen. They got rid of the parabolic microphone, so it didn't affect the rest of the game. I don't know what happened out there. I really don't. I've never really seen that situation happen. I mean, I don't know that it's accurate that thing has been out there since 2017. I'm not saying it's not accurate. I just have never seen it before. Never seen it or heard about it. And I don't think that was the problem in the game. If it affected anything, it affected one batter. How about Bryce Harper's rundown gaffe? I started the show with that. That's where I thought the game got out of hand. Because you had that. That's an out. Right? That's an out. He gets picked off, caught stealing, whatever you want to call it. So Lindor starts the inning with a pop-up. Soto ends up walking. You got him picked off. There's 2 outs right there in the 5th. There's 2 outs in a 3-3 game, and then after that, they take the 4-3 lead. And then after that, the game is pretty much over. Phillies don't score again. Mets score in the 6th. Then they pile on more in the 7th as you bring Romano in the game. Now, somebody messaged me on social media last night about why Romano, and I I don't really know. He says for whatever reason, Thompson has all this confidence in Romano. Maybe he does. I don't know. Maybe he's just trying to get this guy, right. I don't see it happening. I don't understand why they have so much, there's no reason to put him in the game. Although you're down 6-3, it's either him, Joe Ross. Like, those are your guys in that spot, But and I joke, is that Thompson's way of kind of letting Dombrowski know, this is the guy you gave me. I don't know how many more times you want me to put him in the game before the writing's on the wall that this guy can't get anybody out. How many times do I have to keep calling on him? Now, again, in that situation, it is a 6-3 game in the 7th. There's not a lot of options in that spot because you don't want to go to your higher leverage guys, and that would be, your Strom in that situation, your Tanner Banks in that situation. He already used Robertson. So your options in that spot, it's really Joe Ross, right? It's really Joe Ross, Jordan Romano. Is there somebody else that I'm forgetting about that's kind of on the lower end of the rung? Not really. Alvarado, Tanner Banks, Duran, Kerkering, and Strom. Those 5 guys you really don't want to go to down by 3 runs. So, I mean, that's really the crux of the problem here. Is when you're losing a game and you're in the 7th and you don't want to have to, like tonight, does Thompson kind of wave the white flag last night and say, listen, we're going to live to fight another day. The momentum's just swung against us. I need to now make sure that my guys are ready for tomorrow. My Alvarado, my Banks, my Kerkering, my Duran, and Strom. I'm not using them in this game right now. So you're down 6-3 in the 7th. He probably goes and makes the right decision to go to Romano or Ross. They're the 2 options. The problem is they're the 2 options. They're the 2 options. And therein lies your problem. So it's one of those situations where do you want me to go here? So I don't think that he went to the wrong guys. I think he just has the wrong guys. That's it. He doesn't have them. Paul from Millville. Sanchez was never the same after the balk. I've been saying all season, even when Wheeler was still pitching, that you cannot have your starting pitcher implode in an important playoff game. Giving up 3 or 4 runs is not good enough. Well, you're right about that, Paul. This is the Phillies' problem. You're a team predicated and built on pitching, and if your pitching has that game right there, that's your guy. He's your ace. And if he has that game in a playoff series, what are you going to do? You scored 3 runs last night. Now, Senga, you kind of had him on the ropes, right? You kind of had Senga on the ropes last night. So I thought the Phillies did a pretty good job of, getting to him. Much like last year. If you remember the playoff game, I think they got to him early, but then he kind of settled in. They scored 3 runs off Senga in 4 innings. I mean, they got him out of the game, but they couldn't score against the bullpen last night. And they don't have a great bullpen. Now, they've added to the bullpen, but the bullpen's been a problem for them. And yet, you couldn't get anything going after you got Senga out of the game. More from Paul in Millville, who says they failed rundown was simply because you have an outfielder playing first base, and this wasn't the first time the Phillies have failed on a rundown. You cannot have major meltdowns by your starters and fail fundamentals in playoff games. Thanks. Yeah, listen, I think you're right on Harper did not execute that rundown very, very well. He needs to I think he thought he was going to catch the guy. I think he thought he was going to catch Soto or kind of get him to and he took too long to throw the ball. You want to get the ball to the second baseman or the shortstop and have him going back towards first base. You never want to have the guy going towards the advancing bag. You want him to at least, worst case scenario, is that you have him running back towards first base so that if something happens like what happened there, where they don't execute the throw, he doesn't get to also gain the bag. So Harper's got to take that ball, move his body into a throwing lane, and then get the ball to, I guess Stott was at second base. And now Stott's job is to run him back to first base. And then the pitcher should be there to make the play. You don't want to run towards the guy so that he can go towards the base, because now you're shortening that throw, and then you get into that situation where you're like handcuffing the guy. You don't have a clear lane. Soon as you have that guy picked off, the first baseman should step out of the baseline, and now he has a throwing lane to second. 609-403-0973. Robbie from Little Egg Harbor. The manager should have gone to plan B as soon as possible. The Phillies had a 3-0 lead. Well, here's the thing, Robbie, in Little Egg Harbor and everybody else. I will agree. I don't think they should have gone to Sanchez in the 6th inning, but that's your ace last night. And sometimes your ace has a little bit of a longer leash. You don't have Zach Wheeler anymore. You have Christopher Sanchez. He's your guy. So I think Christopher Sanchez does get a little bit of a longer leash than the rest. And he's not Zach Wheeler. Phil checks in. The Mets are a good team. They have better players than the Phillies. Just hope to avoid them in the playoffs. You know, that's another thing, Phil, is that the Phillies and Mets really have a very minimal chance to meet in the playoffs. They have a very minimal chance to meet. So your house of horrors that has been Citi Field, you likely will not have to face them. I'll break it down for you here, just like this. Philadelphia's 6 games above the Mets. Now, even if the Mets win tonight, it goes down to 5. If the Phillies can get 1 game in this series, the lead stays at 6. That being said, the way the playoffs currently work, the league standings look like this. The loss last night, Philadelphia's 5.5 behind the Brewers. So right now, Milwaukee's 1, Philadelphia's 2. And the Dodgers are the 3rd division leader. There's a 2.5 game lead over the Dodgers. So the Dodgers would be the team that plays the wild card game, and they would be playing in that wild card game the Mets. The Mets are 2.5 games up on the Reds. The Dodgers and Mets would play. If the Mets win the series against the Dodgers, the Mets would go and play the Brewers, who are the best team right now. So you would avoid the Mets in the division round. The only chance you could play the Mets under the current standings would be in the NLCS. And then you would have to hope that you have the home field advantage and you win all your home games. I mean, obviously, you've had a terrible, terrible run against the Mets at that ballpark. Now, if they go out and win tonight, you got a pitching matchup, by the way. Jeff checks in, says, Mike, what's your projected lineup tonight versus Mets lefty Sean Manaea? I think Manaea went to WVU, by the way. What is my projected lineup? This game goes every day, doesn't it, Jeff? Let's see. My projected lineup today, let me see, make sure the lineup is not out yet. No, I do not see the lineup out. So my guess today would be for the lineup. My guess for the lineup today would be Turner, Schwarber, Harper, Realmuto, Bohm, 5. Probably Castellanos 6, Bader 7, Sosa 8, and Wilson 9. I think they go full right-handed outfield. Wilson in left, Bader in center, Castellanos in right. Especially against Manaea. Manaea is the kind of lefty that the lefties get the day off unless you're obviously Schwarber and Harper. But I don't even think you see Stott in the game tonight. I think you'll probably see Sosa at second and Wilson will play left. That would be my guess tonight. So when that lineup comes out, we'll let you know. UPS Jeff's checking in. They better not bring Romano in Philly. Jeff, listen, that's the kind of game you're going to see Romano. That's the kind of game you're going to see Romano is when you're losing the game and it's starting to get late and you do not want to use any of your primary bullpen arms. Now, you can make an argument. This is where it goes back to Dombrowski. Dombrowski could do a favor and get rid of Romano, and this way, in that spot, you're probably going to Lazar. Do you feel better about Lazar than Romano? Of course you do. You feel better about anybody over Romano right now. He's terrible. Andrew in Summers Point says this team is no longer built on pitching with Wheeler out for the season. Our bats will have to win the World Series, not our pitching. You know, that's a conversation we can have, Andrew. You're not wrong about that. Mike, it was one game, yet I say if Vientos stays hot and the production from Torres and Alvarez is Alvarez is on the DL, then they can be competitive in a series. Listen, I agree. The Mets they've had an awful stretch here, but that team's as dangerous as anybody else is in the National League. They're as dangerous as anybody else is. Casty right, Bader center, Schwarber left. I don't think so. I think it will be Wilson, but I could be wrong. If Schwarber's DHing or playing left, who's DHing then? Why would Schwarber play left? I mean, who's going to be the DH? If you're playing Casty, you might as well DH him. And then you could put, well, I guess you wouldn't use Wilson in right field. But I don't know why Schwarber would play left field tonight. I don't see that happen because Schwarber played the outfield on, I want to say Sunday. One of the days this weekend he played out there. So I can't imagine that Schwarber plays the outfield again. 609-403-0973. If the season ended now, the Phillies would play the winner of the Dodgers-Mets. I don't think that's the way it works. I think the Mets would play the Brewers because the Mets would be the worst team in the playoffs, would play the best team in the playoffs. The Phillies would play the Dodgers. Unless, do they just go bracket play and it doesn't matter? I thought it was like the team that's the best record plays the team with the worst record. So like the Phillies would play the Dodgers, and if the Mets won, the Mets would play the Brewers, but the Mets wouldn't play the Phillies. Am I wrong about that? 609-403-0973. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not saying that I'm right, but I thought it was like the best team, the Brewers, plays the worst possible team that's left. So if the Dodgers win, they would play the winner of the Padre-Cubs series, and the Dodgers would play the Phillies. If the Mets beat the Dodgers, then the Phillies would play the winner of the Cubs-Padre series. But I could be wrong about that. Is it just straight brackets? It doesn't matter what? Or is it based on the best versus the worst? They changed that up 2 or 3 years ago, or whenever they did it, and I don't quite remember. 609-403-0973. Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift are engaged, if anybody cares about that. They got engaged. Adam Schefter announced that on the X platform. When the Phillies lineup is out, we'll have it for you here on the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN. I know a lot of people are going crazy over that announcement. I'm Mike Gill. We're just getting started. Jeff Kerr, CBS Sports, going to join me. We'll get his thoughts. He covers the Phillies for CBS 3. And, of course, right here on the Sports Bash, he covers the NFL for CBSSports.com. Eagles 53-man roster. The shakedown for the players is happening right now. When I say the shakedown, you know when Big Dom says, hey, we need your playbook, coach wants to see you. Now, I don't know if the Eagles do it that way, but that's from the Hard Knocks days. Yo, coach needs your playbook. He wants to see you. Bring your playbook. Never a good sign. So far today, Anaya Smith is probably the biggest name that I have seen. There's some others as they get down to 53. You can follow along on the 53-man roster over at 97.3ESPN.com. Phillies, they continue to struggle. Eagles roster by 4 o'clock. Roseman and Sirianni will have the presser later on. Football at 4, Adam Caplan with the breakdowns for you. It's all right here with me, Mike Gill, on the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN. All right, 231 Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. I'm Mike Gill. We've got so much to dive into. Phils lose last night. Eagles cutting down to 53. It's all happening. We got you covered. Jeff Kerr's covered it all. CBS Sports, CBS 3 covers the Phillies and the Eagles, and he's set to join us right now here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. Jeff Kerr, buddy, what's going on, man? It is a busy day for all as the Eagles getting down and the Phillies with an ugly loss last night. And, of course, when you lose like that and you continue to lose at Citi Field, people start to get angry, Jeff Kerr. Are you feeling a sense that the Phillies fans are starting to feel the 6-game lead slip away a little bit, or should we hit the pause button on that?
They should definitely hit the pause button. Look, all you got to do is win one game in this series, right? I know that's hard for the Phillies right now to win in Citi Field, but you should expect this. You should expect them to struggle in Citi Field. I don't care what the lead is. And I'll tell you what, Mike, you coach baseball. I've played baseball. I've watched enough baseball. Alec Bohm's actions on that double play, to me, they were a disgrace. That was an absolute disgrace. Whatever was going on with those parabolic microphones, that didn't prevent you from having a 2-run single earlier in the game. So why does it bother you now?
I agree. Like the whole situation was weird. Last night, McCarthy said during the broadcast that he thought it was for TBS, who's doing the national broadcast tonight. But Talico said the thing's been there since 2017. I've never heard of it or seen it before. But the fact that in that moment, it was a 20-minute delay that really threw off the whole game and the whole situation. And I thought at that point they probably should have not gone back to Sanchez.
I would agree with you there. I thought that affected Sanchez. I thought the balk affected Sanchez a bit. It just seems everything was spiraling out of control when they had that long delay. And, yeah, I would agree. I just don't think you should have went back to him at that point. You just tried to use your bullpen, which has been a strength outside of Jordan Romano, to your advantage. And I'll tell you something else I didn't like last night, Mike. It's 3-0. It could have been 6-0, 8-0. They could have put this game away, but they just couldn't hit with runners in scoring position. Mets were 11 of 17 for runners in scoring position last night.
Yeah, I said, like, that game, they just got hot. It was one of those things where, and I said, if I'm going to lose, I'd rather lose like that. You know what happens. The team scores 13 runs one night. They don't hit the next night. Just put me out of my misery. I want to talk about putting out of the misery. You mentioned Romano. Listen, that's a weird spot. It's a tough spot in the game. You're down 6-3. You're now into the 7th. Is Thompson at the point where he kind of decides, we're not really in this game. I don't want to use a higher leverage guy. I'll live to fight another day. It's either Romano or Ross in that suit. You don't want to use Banks or, Strom or Kerr, obviously Duran or Alvarado. So because Romano's his option, that's who he has to go to in that spot, or would you have gone to a higher leverage guy? Because some people are saying, well, you're waving the white flag down by 3 runs in the 7th.
I didn't have a problem with him going to Romano at that stage in the game. I had more of a problem getting before when he started the 6th with Sanchez. I didn't think Sanchez had it, especially after the delay. Why is he coming back out for the 6th? I don't want to hear about the matchup stuff. This guy just doesn't have it tonight.
Yeah.
That's when you try to win the game, when you are down. And you're like, okay, what were they, down 4-3 going to 6, Mike? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, no, it's a 4-3 game, and then he comes in the game, and obviously at that point it is a 6-3 game when he comes in.
Yeah, because you had the leadoff double in the 6th with Sanchez, and you're just like, okay, what are we doing here? Like, try to keep this game close, but 6-3, I didn't have a problem with him playing Romano, and I don't want to use Banks, I don't want to use Strom, I don't want to use Kerr, I don't want to use any of those guys because you might need them tonight.
Right, exactly, because if you win the next 2 games and you look back, you won the games because you had all those guys available tonight and tomorrow. That's why he ends up doing it. And I know the fans want to go after that game right there and right now. I think he said, look, I'll live to fight another day. I don't want to use the rest of my guys. The problem is Romano is his option. At some point, this is on Dave Dombrowski, that he's got to be the guy to pull the plug on Romano, not the manager. The manager's got to use who he's given for that particular role. And in that role, it's either him or Ross. They're the 2 guys.
Exactly, right? Why is Jordan Romano still on this team? Before going in the last night, he had an ERA in the teens, and in August. Now it's in the 20s. Like, this guy just doesn't have it. Like, what are you trying to prove at this point? Look, I like Jordan Romano. He's a nice guy. If he was anybody else with that big contract, outside of the big contract, he wouldn't be here. Like, there's got to be a better option in the minor leagues. Max Lazar
Max Lazar, I think, I said to the listeners earlier, it's either Ross or Romano. You get rid of Romano, it's either Lazar. Now you put Lazar in that spot. Maybe it's a 6-3 game. The Phillies didn't score anymore. That being said, they got the doors blown off of them the rest of the way because Romano gets the homer. Then Ross comes in, and Ross has been a total disappointment as well. When they signed him, it was like, hey, this is the kind of guy they've been lacking. That swing man. He can give you 2 innings out of the bullpen. He's been a disaster. So their options when they're down in a game are Romano and Ross, and that's not good enough.
I would agree with you. And you know what bothers me too, Mike? Like, I don't have a problem with the criticism of Romano and Ross. It's more than fair. But then don't criticize the guys they're bringing up because you wanted them gone. Like, you don't like Max Lazar because he pitched a bad game in Chicago? It's stupid.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, listen, there are guys whose roles are, I'm the guy that you turn to when we're losing a game, and I'm the guy you go to when we're winning a game. In that situation last night, you're in the 7th inning, you're down 3. I don't want to use any of my higher leverage guys. The problem is the guy that is now in the role of pitching the games when you're losing is not being able to keep the game at bay, and that's a big problem there. I do want to get into your thoughts on this. I would imagine tonight the lineup is not out, but I would imagine, Jeff, that you will see Castellanos, Bader, and Weston Wilson will be all right-handers against Minaya?
I would assume so, yeah. I mean, why would you go with Marsh or Kepler or any of the lefty options? You would have to go with your righties there. I thought that's why Nick Castellanos didn't play last night, just because I don't have his numbers in front of me against Kodai Senga, but I can imagine he would be confusing him all night. Yeah, exactly. And
although Castellanos' numbers against Minaya is 6 for 19 with 3 homers.
You know what, Mike? This is a game I'm really – I don't want to say I'm confident, but if you had to say to me going into this series, Jeff Kerr, who do you think is going to win? Or what game do you think the Phillies are going to win? I would say Tuesday, just because of Minaya, just because of the situation at Bay. And look, I think this is a huge step for Jesus Luzardo, too. This is a chance for Jesus Luzardo to prove to the Phillies, if you need me in game 3 of a division series, I can do it.
And that was another thing last night. By the way, Jeff Kerr, CBS 3, covers the Phillies for CBS 3. We'll flip his hat to his other job here in a couple of minutes. But there you see on the screen, Castellanos 6 for 19 with 3 homers against Minaya. Turner 6 for 18 with a homer. Harper 4 for 14 with a homer. Bohm 3 for 13 with a homer. Sosa 5 for 10. I would imagine Sosa plays second base tonight, although Stott is 3 for 7 with a home run as well. So there you go. Wilson has no hits against him. Maybe they try to find a way for Stott to get in the lineup, but I would imagine Sosa 5 for 10, although maybe that's a day for Bohm to take the night off after his little antic that he pulled last night in that game. Jeff, I want to get to Sanchez. That was his first chance now that he knows he's the ace. Did you watch that and say, yikes, I don't know that he's ready to make that step, or is it just a bad outing for Sanchez?
I think it was just a bad outing. Look, for 3 innings, I thought it was great. Then he had the balk, and just everything seemed to unravel. It wasn't just him. It was everybody. Like, there were defensive miscues. I still don't know what Bryce Harper was doing during that game. Yeah, Mike, there's just a lot of bad vibes to me that came out last night. Like, look, I knew the Harper thing with him wearing the opposing team's colors has been a thing for months. But this stuff elevates in series like this. And then it doesn't matter if I want to put it in the context or whoever wants to put it in the context. It's out there. So that's part of the problem. Or Alec Bohm's antics, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Alec Bohm has been pretty much good all year, and then all of a sudden he's having a hissy fit over some of the batters line stuff. I got news for you, Alec. There used to be seats out there.
Well, I'll tell you, that whole thing, I think, changed the game. The rundown, Harper, that was the beginning of it. Then the 19-minute delay. All of it was a complete disaster. We'll see what happens.
You know what, Mike? This is my old adage, right? If you see a bee's nest, you don't swing at it. And that's what Alec Bohm did last night.
Yeah. All right, Jeff Kerr, CBS 3, covers the Phillies. Let's go to Jeff Kerr, CBS Sports, covering the Eagles. Any surprises for you as we approach 4 o'clock today?
You know what? I thought they would keep Kenyon Green if because and look, I give credit to Howie Roseman. He's totally changed his philosophy on this. But there was a time where they would eat that, right? They would just say, "Hey, look, this guy's going to make our team. We're going to continue to develop him because we traded the starter for him." It obviously didn't work out. All the other ones, I'm not surprised of. Like them training for a third quarterback, not surprised because of how bad Thompson Robinson and McCord were. Them cutting Anaya Smith, I'm not surprised. Them keeping Darius Cooper, I think that's a really big move for them. I think Colin Granson makes this team. I haven't heard anything about him getting released yet, but Brett Toth is one I'm curious to see because remember, he's a vested veteran. He doesn't have to go through waivers. You can make a little backdoor deal with him on the practice squad there. So I'm curious to see if they keep on the active roster or not.
Yeah, that you mentioned Anaya Smith. I guess that means that Cooper, who a lot of people have said they think he'll make the team, and then Mechie, I would imagine that's just pretty much a sign that Mechie's going to make the team because Smith, they usually don't like to give up on their draft choices. That's why I was a little surprised there, but I guess that means Cooper, an undrafted guy, is going to beat out Smith, a guy who was drafted last year.
And you know what, Mike? That was strictly performance. It's not like Anaya Smith had a bad camp. It's just Darius Cooper had a better camp, and I think he's one of those guys. It's like my old friend Ross Tucker likes to say, if I got to look up the college you're at, you're probably pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. What did he go to, Tarleton State? I know we've had people say that he didn't even huddle up. He didn't know how to get into a breakout of a huddle because in college
that's all they did against Baylor a couple years ago. They played no huddle, and then I just remember this kid was catching everything. And when the Eagles signed, I'm like, I wonder if that was and I looked it up. It was Darius Cooper.
Jeff, we know this is the quote-unquote initial 53. Does Howie Roseman jump on the phone at the end of the day and do something between now and the opener?
Well, yeah, they're looking for a pass rusher. They've been looking for a pass rusher. It's just which type of pass rusher you're going to get. I don't think there's going to be a superstar coming through here, but you need depth, right? I'm just trying to think of who they could call for that could be in the last year of their contract. I know people have mentioned Trayvon Walker. What about Arnold Ebiketie from the Atlanta Falcons? That would be someone I would like to see here. But yeah, Mike, they got to do something. It's because if Jay Alexander and Nolan Smith get hurt, I don't know what this team's going to do, if you're going to be honest. Like, I like Josh Uche, but it's not enough. Azeez Ujulari has been kind of a disappointment, but he's going to make this team because they don't have anybody else.
All right, we'll keep our eye. You're right on the edge rushing situation. And what about corner 2? Eli Ricks did not make the team. Not that big of a surprise, but just obviously a guy who's been in the mix for a little while here. Jacorian Bennett, they traded for. They still looking there. And then the safety spot. Marcus Epps got released today. He was a guy who had been here before. Do they want to upgrade in that safety position?
I mean, I wouldn't mind Marcus Epps here, but is he at the point where – and I like him, but you think he could beat out Sidney Brown or Tristan McCollum? I don't know. Vic Fangio really likes Tristan McCollum.
Yeah, I agree. All right, Jeff Kerr, CBS 3 covers the Phillies. Make sure you check out all his CBS 3 coverage on the Phillies. And then over at CBSSports.com, all his NFL and Eagles coverage over there. And right here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. I know it's a busy day. You going to have Roseman and Sirianni talking at 4:15, and we'll have that for you here on the Sports Bash. Good to see you, pal.
It's always a pleasure, Mike. You know what? It's starting to get to be that time, though. Season previews are coming out. The Eagles play, in 9 days? It's happening soon.
It's all happening, man. It's all locking into place. We'll talk to you soon.
See ya, Mike.
All right, Jeff Kerr, everybody, CBS Sports, CBS 3, Phillies and Eagles writer, of course, here on the Sports Bash Live. We always love having Jeff on the show here on the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, and live video streaming on the X platform, YouTube, at Mike Gill Show. We got so much going on. I hope you stick around and be a part of the show. The seafood extraordinary, the value tremendous, the sunsets, they're on the house. That's our friends at Yuri's Waterfront Restaurant and the Boathouse Restaurant at the foot of the bridge in Wildwood. Don't forget to host your fantasy football draft at Yuri's, just like 97.3 ESPN is doing this year. You can choose from catering-sized platters of wings and buff tenders, crab balls, peppers, mott sticks, plus fries, chips, pretzels, happy hour drink prices, and more. Book your draft party now and experience the best of the Jersey Shore. Yuri's in the Boathouse at the foot of the bridge in Wildwood. Yeah, our league is being hosted there. They're going to be doing the fantasy draft at Uri's this year. When we come back, got poll question up for you. Has to do with yesterday's show a little bit, but we added some wrinkles to it. At Mike Gill Show, get on board and vote now. It's the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN. All right, 252 Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. I'm Mike Hill. What's up, everybody? Good to have you with us on a Tuesday show. All right, poll questions up at Mike Gill Show. Vote, 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 vote. Now, we were talking about this on yesterday's show. At Mike Gill Show, you can vote. I'm giving you 2 tickets. Which ones are you taking? Phillies 2026 schedule came out today. Now, it didn't officially announce that they're playing in the Field of Dreams game, but they do play the Twins on that weekend when the Field of Dreams game has been played in the past. But I'm giving you 2 tickets. Which ones are you taking? These are your options. Field of Dreams game, Super Bowl, Army, Navy, the Masters. Right now, believe it or not, Super Bowl is winning, which is not the crazy part. 47% say Super Bowl. 34% are going to the Masters. And then next up is the Field of Dreams game, Army, Navy. Only 3% of the people out there are going Army Navy. I'm surprised by that. I really thought Army Navy would have had a big push of people. Maybe in the 3 o'clock hour we get some more people on there. Field of Dreams game hanging in there at 15%. The Masters in the Super Bowl right now, those are kind of neck and neck. 47% Super Bowl, 34% Masters at Mike Gill Show. I'm giving you 2 tickets. Which event are you going to? Now, you can text in if there's an event that you would rather go to over the 4 that we gave you. Field of Dreams, Super Bowl, Army, Navy, or the Masters. They're your picks. Go to vote at Mike Gill Show and let me know. Sports Bash is live on 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. And, of course, the live video streaming on the X platform, YouTube, at Mike Gill Show. Watch the show live. Be a part of the show on the text board, 609-403-0973. Phillies lineup, that should be dropping here any moment now. And when it does, we'll get it to you. I think that you'll see all the right-handers in the outfield today. Could be a little bit of a different look out there. But my assumed lineup would have Wilson, Bader, Castellanos. They would be the ones that I think would be in the outfield. And I think you'll see Sosa play second base over Stott, or Sosa play third over Bohm, and maybe Stott stays, because Stott has had some good success against Sean Manaea in the past. All right, 3 o'clock, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, live video, streaming on the X platform, YouTube at Mike Gill Show. Check out all the Eagles 53-man roster moves over at 973ESPN.com. We've got so much to dive into in the next hour. We'll keep our eye on the 53. Adam Caplan at 4 o'clock today for football at 4. Right now, time for the Phillies mailbag with Frank Klose. It's brought to you by Broadlee's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning, your trusted source for heating, plumbing, service, and installation for generations. 609-390-3907 online, broadlees.net. Frank joins me now to talk a little Phils. What a game last night. I mean, up 3-0 with your ace on the mound, Frank. You're feeling like, man, they're finally going to get past this whole thing with the Mets, but was not to be. I want to start with Christopher Sanchez. Do you watch that game last night and have any worry about him, or just bad night?
Actually, the thing that worried me was, I don't know if you remember, at one point he balked, and the balk was because his cleat got stuck in the dirt right in front of the mound. And I was kind of worried about, did he do something to himself, or did that throw off his mechanics? To me, that was the time that he kind of got thrown off his game. And so you saw him at the end. He was really angry and kicking things in the dugout. Hopefully he doesn't injure himself.
Unlike him, too.
It very much is. But, maybe he's feeling a little bit of extra pressure right now. He knows he's the man with Zach Wheeler out, and I think he'll be fine. But he just seemed like, to me, that the turning point where he was just sort of off was when he balked, only because his cleat got stuck in that New York dirt.
Well, I was going to say, all right, you got the balk, you had the pickoff at first base, then you had the delay because of the Bohm situation. I mean, you could pick any one of those things and say, hey, that thing played a role, that thing played a role. But it just, after that fifth inning, house of horrors.
Yeah, it was. But let's be honest, Mike. Anytime Jordan Romano goes into a game, it's going to be a house of horrors.
Well, I want to ask you about Romano in that situation. Okay, I want to get your thoughts on this. I mean, and you don't have to agree with me here, but they're down 3 in the 7th. You don't want to go to your higher leverage guys there. I mean, do you live to fight another day and hope Romano I mean, I don't think the problem is that he went to Romano. The problem is that Romano's his option. That's the problem, because Romano or Ross, aren't they the two guys that are supposed to come into the game when you're losing later on? I don't want to start using Kerr or Strom or Banks or Alvarado in that spot.
Yeah, if it's me, you go to your low leverage or lower leverage relievers there. Look, the Phillies have 5 you might put into the higher leverage category at this point now out of the 8. And you really get down to even up to 6, arguably. The 2 that are at the back end, meaning the back of the options, are Romano at this point and Joe Ross. So, but you have to expect that if you're on the roster, you can at least keep that game tight. I mean, I understand not looking to use your premium arms to protect that you would normally use to protect the lead, but Mike, Romano's on the roster. I think he's only on the roster because of the Wheeler injury, because he would have had to have been cut, or Joe Ross would have had to have been cut, and I think it would have been Romano. So he's still around because of that, but I think after yesterday, it's probably time to just move on. It's not good for anybody, and I think even Romano would love to have an opportunity to go somewhere else at this point. He needs a fresh start. Phillies need a fresh start.
But in that situation, do you agree or disagree that it's either him or Ross are the two guys? You're losing 3 runs. People are like, well, you put him in, you're waving the white flag. It's not so much that you're waving the white flag, it's I'm losing the game in the 7th, and I don't want to, I'd rather have Strom, Kerr, Banks, Alvarado available tonight than kept that game at 6-3, and then I lose 6-3 possibly.
I'll put it this way, Mike. Right now, you have games you're going to win, you have games you're going to lose. If it's August, yes, that's what you do. You go to those guys that are the lower leverage guys. In the playoffs, that's when you go to the Stroms and Kerrings.
Well,
because the days off let you do it.
Right. I think in a playoff game, it's completely different. I mean, yeah, you're not seeing Romano. I don't think Romano's going to be on the playoff roster.
He might not be on the roster when they announce the lineup today, Mike. But but yeah, the playoffs. When you go to the playoffs, that's when you throw your best guys and you shorten the game that way. So, but I'm okay with it in this situation because there's still several weeks to play here, Mike.
What do you make of the Bohm thing last night? people calling out his immaturity. Did he have a point? What do you make of it? I mean, it was a weird situation because McCarthy on the broadcast suggested it was TBS had a national broadcast and it might have been their equipment. But Talico on the postgame said it's been there since 2017. I don't know what to make of that whole situation, but do you look at Bohm and say, you cry, baby, what are you doing? Do you say he had a legitimate gripe? It was a 20-minute delay that caused.
That's not good for your pitchers. I'll tell you that. So I would say that.
Agree.
Yeah. Bohm, I don't know. Did he have a little sour grapes after he grounded into the double play? Perhaps, but nobody said anything. And if it was a matter of facing the lefty, I mean, Christopher Sanchez was on the mound, and the Mets were facing him and not hitting him early, by the way. So I don't know. It was a weird time for it to come out, but it kind of gave the impression of sour grapes. I don't know if that's true or not, but look, if something's distracting the batter, obviously you want to move it. But so they got to do something to make that less shiny. If they're going to use it in the future.
I mean, the fact that it's never come up before, I don't know. Like if Patalico saying it's been there since 2017 and nobody has ever said anything about it, I find that bizarre because it looked like on television that it legitimately did look like it had a reflection on it, right? Or am I out of my mind?
Yeah, it seemed that way. But look, they change lighting in stadiums all the time. I don't know. I'm sure that there was something to it, and I'm sure it's something that can be easily remedied. It's just funny how it had to happen then.
Yeah, it was a weird thing, and then probably wouldn't have sent Sanchez back out there. What about you?
I would not have. I think those 5 innings would have been enough for me.
All right, we're talking about Romano. Got a text question here. If and when Romano's DFA'd, who takes that spot? Is Lou Trevino a possibility? That's on the text board.
Well, I think the next one up is probably Alan Ronhell, who has been up before. He's been down for 15 days, so he has a shot to do
Lazar.
it.
Lazar?
Yeah, well, Lazar is not eligible yet. So right now, I think it would be a situation where you go that route. But Trevino, look, at this point, he just has 6 appearances with the Iron Pigs. Hasn't gotten anybody to score on him just yet, so I don't know if that's a big enough sample size.
He has some big league closing experience.
Yeah. I mean, the story. So if people aren't familiar, the idea with Trevino is he signed with his hometown Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs to sort of end his career back home. He does have that big league experience. Found himself a minor league journeyman over the years, and right now he's with Lehigh Valley. So far, so good. I would give him a little bit more of a runway though before you start calling him up because he has put up some numbers in the minor leagues which are unsightly at times as well too. So let him settle in. But yeah, he's a very, I'll put it this way, he's a very interesting wild card down the stretch because and I know I'm kind of getting into one of the future questions in the mailbag, but the Phillies right now have 3 arms that are candidates to come up. Probably Ronhell, because he's the one that's available right now, given the roster situation. But Max Lazar and Daniel Robert, they're probably 3 that are likely to be seen again in this Phillies bullpen. But yeah, Trevino's a kind of a wild card, so I would give him a little bit more before I call him up because he's had very limited action so far at Lehigh Valley. But he's a really good story to watch. He's a feel good story, that's for sure.
Yeah, just like one of those guys who just kind of at the end of his career wanted to come close to home, said he always grew up going to Iron Pig games, although I don't know if they were called the Iron Pigs at that point. But, I don't know that Trevino's is at the top of the list of guys, but they need to do something with Romano. Your point is valid, too. I saw you tweeting about this probably for everybody. Romano, the team, everybody to move on there. Gary wants to know, can the Phillies legitimately win a World Series without Zach Wheeler?
Yeah, so we learned this past week that it's going to be a 6 to 8 month period that Zach Wheeler will miss. And besides that blood clot, he's been diagnosed with thoracic outlet syndrome, which is really no joke. I mean, a lot of notable pitchers in the major leagues have experienced that. It was something that derailed Matt Harvey. Remember the one-time big Mets prospect and big-time pitcher?
Yep.
But also the likes of Merrill Kelly. And the good news for Wheeler is that they kind of caught it kind of early, and he's expected to make a full recovery after just 6 to 8 months. So, in fact, that timeline's very much like Merrill Kelly's, and we saw Merrill Kelly became a legit World Series pitcher. Don't we know it, right, in Philadelphia from that NLCS. But so aside from the fact that of course his health is first and foremost, then we got to look at baseball that's going to be played this year. And yeah, his absence is going to be missed. I mean, this is a guy with a 2.18 ERA and 77 strikeouts in his 12 playoff appearances. And in the NLCS, he was dominant, right? 3-0 with the 1.63 ERA and 33 strikeouts, 5 games in the NLCS. So, yeah, you missed that. But you have what you have. And I think if you're going into the playoffs, if you ask the question, all right, if I pit Christopher Sanchez up against any of the other playoff pitchers that you're going to face, can he hang with them? And to me, the answer is yes. Then if you go to game 2, if Ranger Suarez is up against anybody else's number 2 starter, can the Phillies hang with them? And my answer is yes. And so, of course, those are the 2 big guys the Phillies have right now. Ranger Suarez looked great in his last start on Sunday. And really, you got the wild card, which is Aaron Nola right now, right? Is he going to get back on track? He looked better this past time. In fact, talking about somebody you should have taken out sooner, I thought Nola should have called it a day after 5. He ended up going 6, gave up those couple of home runs, but he started to look a little bit more like himself with his velocity upticking a little bit. I mean, if Nola can make a comeback here, I think that could be the big difference in this playoff in terms of the rotation. But even if not, Jesus Luzardo, after he got past the tipping of pitches, he's been pretty good again. So now they're all lefties. There's those other 3, but they're the ones that would be your playoff pitchers if Aaron Nola can't get it together. So I think the pitching is actually going to be fine. I think the pitching is very good enough to hold off the Mets and win the NL East. Probably good enough to bypass a wild card series. And I think the bigger question, Mike, is going to be, is the offense going to show up, or are they going to fall asleep after their 3-0 lead last night? I mean, to me, that's the bigger question.
Yeah, and by the way, Frank Klose, 97.3 ESPN.com is with us here, our Phillies mailbag every Tuesday. And, of course, they get 3 runs, and they get Senga out of the game. And you get into the Mets bullpen, which has struggled recently here, and there's been a big problem for them, and you couldn't do anything against the bullpen. I think your point is very valid there.
Yeah, so that is my main concern when we look at this. But do the Phillies have what it takes? I think they absolutely do. I don't think you should rule them out because they're without Zach Wheeler. This is not a team that has one ace and then a wasteland after that. This is a good starting rotation. It's the area the Phillies are deepest, and so I think that they very much have a shot still.
Eric wants to know, when the rosters expand to 28, who do they add? I like this question, Eric. I like this question.
Under the new rules or the recent rules, not like in 2018 when the Phillies called up pretty much the entire 40-man roster, now you're limited to 28. So you get to add 1 extra pitcher because you have to cap it at 14 pitchers, and then you get 1 position player. So I think right now, if I had to just pick them off the top of my head, I would say Max Lazar, Garrett Stubbs. Now, there are some roster considerations. Max Lazar was optioned to the minor leagues a little too late to make that September 1st date. In fact, you have to be 15 days down to AAA before you can be recalled. The 15th day for Max Lazar is August 2nd. So he's not going to be ready yet. So then you get into those other ones. I mean, Daniel Robert, he was optioned. His 15th day is August 1st. But as I mentioned, Dallin Ronhell is free to come up right now, although they have been stretching him out to start again. So they wanted to have the depth in the minor leagues, but honestly, the Phillies still have depth in the form of Andrew Painter if they're desperate for a starter. So I could see Alan Ronhell being the one that comes up first just because of the roster management. But if the Phillies let Romano go, I think Ronhell's the next one up because he's eligible to be recalled. But I think you're going to be looking at kind of those 3 relievers. You might see some back and forth. The Phillies finally need a fresh arm. They'll grab them. That might change only perhaps in the last week or 2 if the Phillies do want to stretch out the rotation, if they do want to set up their rotation, and they give Andrew Painter a start or 2. I think that's in the cards. And if they give Andrew Painter a start or 2, that will come later, but that would make him be that extra pitcher on the roster in that case. Now, in terms of Stubbs, I think the big question with that is related to Painter. Or do they really want him to be with Painter until the very end? I tend to think there's been some handshake agreement that says that Stubbs will be up when September 1st hits. Most teams carry your third catcher when the rosters expand, and I think there's even a possibility Stubbs could be on the postseason roster over Marchand, depending on how they go with this. But I think the role that Stubbs have is really to work with the pitchers. He's been working with Painter, and I think that they want to get him up here and working with some of the Phillies pitching because let's face it, if there is an injury to a catcher, they want him to be able to have worked with them because he hasn't really worked much with Jesus Luzardo and the like. So and Yohan Duran. So I think
worked out
Stubbs
for Painter. Hasn't worked out for Painter.
Well, he's worked with them, right? So he's kind of been an extra pitching coach.
I joke on that a little bit, but Painter, obviously, an ERA over 5, I think is surprising to everyone. It kind of ties into Dane's question a little bit here. He asked the question, why haven't the Phillies had a player debut 19 or 20 years old in the last half century? Braves, Marlins, they've had young players, but it kind of is young players in general. Like they don't want to call up Crawford. They don't want to call up Painter, where teams all around baseball seem to have no problem going to their top prospects. The Phillies, they're not ready to ask for help from their top guys.
Yeah, I think it's not so much a matter of philosophy. Look, I mean, if we're talking 19 or 20, I think of Miguel Cabrera, Albert Pujols, and Bryce Harper, right? They're the rare breed. I mean, in fact, the youngest player in Major League Baseball this year has been 21 years old, but I don't think it's a matter of the age. I think it's a matter of their readiness for Major League Baseball. I mean, think about the Nationals and Bryce Harper. Harper basically forgoed his senior year of high school to work at a baseball academy so that he could be drafted the following year. And Bryce Harper was much more ready to get to the major leagues than he did at age 19. Not the immediate April after his draft, but the one after that. Yeah. I think of Miguel Cabrera and Albert Pujols, both coming up really young. Cabrera at 20, Pujols was 19. Really strong international signings out of Venezuela, both of them actually. But I think it's just a matter of when the talent's ready. I mean, let's be honest. If the Phillies were the first pick overall in 2010, they would have taken Bryce Harper, and he would have risen through really fast. If the Phillies, of course, were in the World Series the year before, they picked much later, so they didn't do that. But I think it's just a matter of who's ready. And if you think back to the failed rebuild of the 2010s for the Phillies, there just really weren't the high level picks when the Phillies had the high draft picks. I mean, look, they picked Mickey Moniak first overall, and if you go through those first round draft picks, there's nobody there that you thought, man, the Phillies really messed up and they really should have had so and so. I think the best one out of the draft has been AJ Puck, who's been oft injured and only had stretches of success. So I would say it's just a matter of talent, but I don't think it's anything about the organizational philosophy. I mean, Andrew Painter, he was ready to sort of breeze through, it seemed, and then the injury came, and then he just hasn't been able to get his command this year. So I don't think it's a matter of age. I think it's a matter of being ready.
Who'd you rather have, Moniak or Castellanos?
Castellanos.
I mean, Moniak right now is hitting .256 with a .295 on base percentage, 18 homers, which is better. I mean, for the money, I think Moniak. Now, him being a left-handed hitter would be a problem. Would you rather Moniak or Kepler?
Let me tell you this: Moniak is batting .210 when he's not at Coors Field. So I'm not sold on Mickey Moniak. I'm not saying. I'm just saying, like, for what he's getting paid next to Kepler, $10 million, and Castellanos, $20 million, he sounds like a bargain right now. Yeah,
but your point is valid. As the number 1 overall pick, he's at least up and somewhat contributing. The rest of that draft was pretty terrible.
Yeah, AJ Puck and I even forget the guy's name who played for the Reds, who went second. He's already forgettable. He played third base, center field.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Why am I drawing a blank?
Oh, man, I know exactly who you're talking about, too. He actually was good for like a year.
Yeah, he was good for a year. I'm going to look it up now because I'm really angry at myself for forgetting. But
Senzel?
Yeah, Nick Senzel. Yes, thank
Nick
you.
Senzel. And Anderson was okay until he got hurt.
Yeah, so I mean, in terms of working out, but in fact, maybe some of Anderson's issues were that he was rushed. maybe he needed more development and didn't learn how to pitch, and that led to the injury. So I don't really fault them. I know people used to bicker about Ryan Howard, and look, when they signed Jim Thome, he was in low class A and just decent, but not a top prospect by any means. But yeah, I think because of Ryan Howard, it sort of followed them forever. And although I don't even blame them for Ryan Howard.
You had Gavin Lux, who got his World Series ring last night with the Reds. He got drafted in that draft by the Dodgers. Will Smith was a compensatory pick in that draft, in pick 32. So he turned out to be pretty good. Cole Reagans turned out to be a pretty good player, too. Both of those guys made All-Stars. But you're right, that first round of that draft that year was not very good. All right,
Yeah,
Frank
I would say
Klose,
Will Smith is the best.
Yes, absolutely. Frank's back with more Phils, of course, all through the Red October stretch run right here on the Sports Bash Live 97.3 ESPN. Keep your questions coming throughout the day, and we'll answer them, as always, in the mailbag here on the Sports Bash. Thanks, Frank.
Thank you, Mike.
All right, there's Frank, and, of course, you can get Frank every Tuesday here on the Sports Bash. And then, of course, as the playoffs get here, we'll have Frank on throughout the baseball playoffs here on 97.3 ESPN. I'm Mike Gill. This hour of the show, it is brought to you by our friends over at Broadlee's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning, your trusted source for heating, cooling, installation for generations. Call 609-390-3907, online at broadlees.net. I'm Mike Gill, and coming up, the Sports Bash, I saw another possible trade for the Eagles that kind of stood out to me, and it's a name that one of our listeners is going to be excited about, by the way. But we had Jeff Kerr on earlier, and he talked about this particular position that the Eagles want to make sure that they upgrade. We'll get into that next on the Sports Bash, live on 97.3 ESPN. All right, 328 Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. Your home for Eagles-Cowboys Thursday night football is 97.3 ESPN. We'll have the Eagles and the Cowboys. You can listen to all the action with Merrill Reese and Mike Quick as the Birds start the 2025 season. Can hardly wait to see the whole night unfold at Lincoln Financial Field. Poll question, up to date right now. The voting has been coming in all throughout the day at Mike Gill Show. I'm giving you 2 tickets. Which ones are you taking? 48% are going Super Bowl. 30% are going Masters. 17% are going Field of Dreams. 3% are going Army-Navy. Kind of surprised about the Army-Navy being that low on the list. I've been to an Army-Navy game. Awesome spectacle. It's just like you're just sitting in all of the pageantry. I'm big on all that stuff. You know, that's one of the reasons why, like, people who like professional wrestling, it's more about the pageantry of the entrances and the light show. And it's like I joke a lot about Duran coming in and paying the money. You know, I'm kidding when I say this. I don't really think they should charge people $15. Now, if you wanted to be a jerk and make money off the deal, I think you could certainly get people to pay that money. I think there's a way you could capitalize on that whole situation. That being said, those are the type of things as a sports fan that I like. It's the pageantry, all the music and the entrance and all that stuff. That all matters to sports fans. I think, you know, when you look at that stuff, those are the things that all of us, you know, as sports fans, for me anyway, I remember during the process years when the Sixers were absolutely horrendous, that I would go and say the best part about the whole game is the introductions. They got the fire all over the place. I mean, the Sixers put on a presentation. Whether the team is good or not, that place is the place to be. Now, right now, I don't know what's going on with the Sixers, but even during the process years, those home games were a lot of fun. All right, would you agree to this trade? Ed Kratz, who many of you would know as he is John McMullen's partner over at Sports Illustrated. Those two guys cover the Eagles for Sports Illustrated. Johnny Mack, of course, has been a part of our show for years. Ed is his partner over there at Sports Illustrated. He wrote an article at Sports Illustrated that says, would you agree to this trade? Now, he listed 2 guys that the Eagles could be interested in. And now this is more based on their contractual situations. Both of these guys are on deals where the team that they're on would likely not sign them back. You know, the teams that they're talking about are not very good. So this one was the one that stood out to me, though. All right. He says, would you do this trade? 2 players that the Eagles could try to play for. He says 2 names I am hearing to keep an eye on. Trevon Walker and Jalen Phillips. Now, Walker was the first overall pick in 2022. The Jaguars picked up his 5th-year option, so he signed through 2026. He's a guy who sacked the quarterback 10 times, 10.5 times, so he can get to the quarterback. Now, what he is suggesting that would get the deal done is trading a first-round pick along with a third-round pick and Kaylee Ringo to get Trevon Walker. Is that too much? Ringo, I think everybody would be willing to give up Ringo. I don't think that's the holdup. It's the first-round pick and the third-round pick. Are you willing to give up a first-rounder and a third-rounder to get a player like Trevon Walker? Now, I bring up this. If you bring in Trevon Walker, you are essentially putting him in front of Jalix Hunt. Are you ready to give up on Jalix Hunt and say, hey, listen, I like Jalix Hunt, but Trevon Walker definitely is a guy to go after? Are you that interested in upgrading that you would put Jalix Hunt on the bench or in a rotation? And would you give up a first-round pick to do that? See, that's where I think I might have a problem. If I'm giving up a first-round pick, now mind you, if the Eagles are in the playoffs, that pick is towards the back end of the first round. But if I'm giving up a first-round pick, I think I have to play Trayvon Walker more than I do Jalix Hunt, right? So are they looking for a player that definitively takes over for Jalix Hunt, or are they looking for a player that rotates with Jalix Hunt? Because if you're giving up a first-round pick, that's a guy that you are going to play over him, I would imagine. The third-round pick, I'm okay with that. Kaylee Ringo, okay with that. Now, the second player is Jalen Phillips. Final year of his rookie deal. Dolphins picked up his team option. This is the final year of his deal. So you could probably get him for cheaper because of the fact that he is a free agent at the end of the year. 6.5 sacks in 8 games 2 years ago. 1 in 4 games last year. Makes a lot of money. I'm not all that interested in Phillips unless, hey, they took him for a song. But the Trayvon Walker, would anybody out there say, I'd do that deal? First rounder, third rounder, Ringo, Walker comes here. See, the problem you have with that is, again, you are now putting Walker ahead of Hunt. And are you okay with that? Because if you trade the first-round pick, you are saying this is a guy that we think can put our defense over the top. Is Trayvon Walker? Now, keep in mind, Trayvon Walker, another guy who played at Georgia, number 1 overall pick in the draft. It's been good. He's been a good player, hasn't been a great player. I think a lot of people, when he obviously got drafted number 1 overall, I think a lot of people thought he was going to be a difference-making player for the Jaguars. That has not happened. But still a pretty good player. But are you more intrigued by Jalix Hunt, or would you rather give up a first-round pick for Trayvon Walker? 609-403-0973 on the text board. Let me just give you some insight on Walker, too. 24 sacks in 3 seasons. He averages about 8 sacks a season. Good player, wouldn't say great player. Hasn't quite lived up to the number 1 overall pick status, but back-to-back years with 10 sacks. I mean, that's nothing to sneeze at. Now, what else has he done? A lot of times he's in the backfield. Quarterback hits over his 3 seasons in the league, 44 QB hits. He averages 15 a season. So, and he's the only guy really on that defense. So don't just go off of his numbers and say, I think it's a legitimately tough question to ask whether or not you would upgrade that spot and tell Jalix Hunt, listen, you're a third-round pick. We like you, but we're going to upgrade. Right? I'm very, very, very torn on this one. Because Walker, to me, is a very, very good player. Now, the Trey Hendricks one, I talked about this yesterday. Trey Hendrickson, I do that deal in a second. Now, Walker's younger than Hendrickson. A lot younger than him. I mean, he's 24 years old, Trayvon Walker. I mean, he's a young player. So, the problem with Hendrickson is he wants $30 million a year or whatever he ended up getting, but he wanted a long-term deal. They ended up signing him to a 1-year extension, and then they'll kick the can down the road. But Walker's still in his prime years here. You get Trayvon Walker at 24 years old, you pair him up with the other Georgia Bulldogs on this defense, and I don't know what that means for Jalix Hunt. I know what it might mean for Jalen Carter. What it might mean for Jalen Carter is pain for defenses. Pain. Let me know what you think. 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. You got that is a deal that our buddy Ed Kratz over at Sports Illustrated is. Listen, Walker, obviously, Jacksonville is not going anywhere. Are they gonna sign him to a long-term deal? They did give him his 5th-year option, so he would play through next season. All right, so they have him this year and then again next year. So it's the kind of player that I definitely think Howie Roseman would be intrigued by. But has given up a first-round pick for him too much. And, look, in my personal opinion, I would say this is the only hang-up for me, is you bring Walker here and you give up a first-round pick to get him, He's playing. I don't know what that means for Jalix Hunt. That's the only thing. Are the Eagles tied to playing Jalix Hunt because he's cheaper? Team control? Their draft choice. Terry and Galloway checks in on the text board, 609-403-0973. Absolutely do the deal. He's a good established player that'll help you right now. The Eagles are playing for the repeat. Terry, I'm more inclined to go with you on this. Is not only does he help you right now, at 24 years old, he is a young player. At 24 years old, you have him the next 2 years. Put it this way. He's 24. Jalix Hunt is 24. In fact, Jalix Hunt is 24 in 166 days. Trayvon Walker is 24 in 251 days. They're not even 100 years apart, 100 days apart. I mean, they're about the same exact age, these two. Trayvon Walker, a first overall pick. Jalix Hunt, a third-round pick. Walker's production, I think, warrants you to have to take that shot. Mike, that trade should be left up to Fangio. Listen, if the Eagles were to make a trade like that, it's because Fangio signed off on it. That's for sure. If the Eagles were to make a trade like that, that's because Fangio says, I need an upgrade over what I have. That's because they say, hey, go get me a better option because I don't think Jalix Hunt is good enough. We need something better. 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. I like the, Ed Kratz over at Sports Illustrated. I like the outside-the-box thought, though, of Ringo, a first-round pick, and a third-round pick. It definitely makes you think a little bit because of adding the first-round pick. But again, like I said, that first-round pick, you're hoping anyway, would be towards the end of the first round. You're hoping that that would be towards the end of the first round. And then that pick is like, 27, 28, 29, 30. You're in the Super Bowl area. 609-403-0973. All right, couple quick things. Real quick. Philly's schedule for next season has been released. As I told you earlier, they do play the Twins August. Now, I said yesterday the game would be Thursday, August 13th. The game has been played on that Thursday in the first two iterations. This year, the Phillies are off on Thursday, August 13th, so it's not going to be that day. It is probably going to be Saturday, August 15th would be my guess. They do play Minnesota. It is a road game. It does not say anything about it being the Field of Dreams game. But it is on the 15th of August against Minnesota. So I would imagine it's a Fox game, the Fox Saturday baseball game. It would go in that spot right there. Looking at the 2026 schedule for the people who like to go on trips, not much here. The only trip that I can see on a weekend, there's like 3 of them. The one, you can take a drive to Baltimore. They play Friday, Saturday, Sunday, July 31st, August 1st, and August 2nd. You go down to Camden Yards, down and do that. The only other trips that are interesting, if you've ever been to PNC Park, you can go to Pittsburgh in May. If you want to check out Dodger Stadium, you can go there in May. Milwaukee, I've been to Milwaukee. The stadium's nothing special, but I like Milwaukee. I'm not ripping it at all, but if that's one of your best trips, not great. Detroit on a weekend, all of the good trips are during the week. Boston, they play during the week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. San Diego, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. They play the Cubs March 20th through the 23rd. That's early March. April. That's early April going to Chicago. It could be cold as heck out there. The other games in the middle of the week, if you wanted to check out, that are road games, not much. Seattle, St. Louis, Kansas City, Cincinnati. Yeah, a lot of the stuff. I mean, Baltimore would be the one. If you were to say, hey, pick a road game that you want to go to, I'm talking about on a weekend. You want to go to a weekend road game. Baltimore would be the one. And then the next weekend after that, the 14th, 15th, and 16th, is that Minnesota game. So they're either going to play Minnesota on Friday, go to Field of Dreams on Saturday, and then go back and play on Sunday. That could be like a Sunday night game, although right now they don't have a Sunday night baseball partner. 609-403-0973. Text board, hit me up over there. Also, no Phillies lineup out as we speak. We'll get that for you coming up as soon as it drops here on the Sports Nets. Mets lineup is out as they will face Jesus Luzardo tonight. The Mets trying to make it 2 in a row against the Phils. We'll get all that for you coming up on the Sports Bash Live. It's Luzardo and Minaya. Luzardo looking for win number 13, and Sean Minaya struggling in the early stages of his 2025 season. He's been out with injury, just back 1-2 with a 5.15 ERA for the Metropolitans, who stand 6 games behind the Phillies in National League East play. More Sports Bash coming up, 97.3 ESPN.
You know what can disrupt that severely? A work stoppage, because there's nothing that fans hate more than players not playing.
All right, that's our unsportsmanlike moment of the day. Michelle Smallman is right. You know, she was talking about the WNBA in terms of the fact that they might have a work stoppage. Well, that would destroy that league, number one. Number two, when I heard her talking about a work stoppage in terms of what fans hate more than anything, there's a big possibility that baseball could have a work stoppage coming up after next season. Totally disastrous possibility. A totally disastrous possibility for baseball right now to go down that road. Now, the WNBA thing, I mean, that whole situation, I can't believe that the players could look at themselves in the mirror and say, we think this would be smart. Baseball, similar situation. And the baseball thing I fear, you know, there's a lot of people in 1994 when the players went on strike that never came back. There was a lot of fans that never went back to baseball. Now, I can't imagine being one of those people. Like, all I would do every day is wait for the moment for baseball to come back. I'm never going to be the guy that says, if you go on strike, I'm not coming back. I can't imagine being that guy. I can't imagine getting to the point where I just flat out say, if you go on strike, I'm not watching anymore. Because at some point, especially during a long summer in the baseball season, you're going to want to put the game on. But the problem that baseball is staring down right now is the fact that they don't want a salary cap and the owners do. And this one is going to be a stare down that I'm not sure anybody's blinking on anytime soon. So you may, in fact, get a work stoppage in baseball. Now, as we talk about a work stoppage in baseball, there's a possibility that the work stoppage happens in the offseason and that they don't miss any games. But we'll see, because I don't think that either side is willing to blink on the salary cap. The whole thing with Bryce Harper telling Rob Manfred to get the bleep out of there, that's the first indication. Number two, the second indication would be the owners are saying, look, this is getting out of hand. Look at the Dodgers. Look at the regional sports networks. The television situation's a mess right now for Major League Baseball. So Michelle Smallman is correct. A disaster could be waiting for Major League Baseball. A disaster could be waiting for Major League Baseball if they, in fact, decide. Look, we're talking about the 2026 schedules out. We're talking about that in August. We have a poll question up right now at Mike Gill Show. You can vote at Mike Gill Show. Vote over there. And we're talking about, I'm giving you 2 tickets. Which one are you taking? Field of Dreams game, Super Bowl, Army, Navy, and the Masters. They're just 4 of the events that we threw into the mix there. And 17% are saying they would go with a Field of Dreams game over a Super Bowl, over the Masters. Now, the Super Bowl is winning 47%. The Masters is second, 32%. Field of Dreams game is third at 17%. The Army-Navy game, I can't believe that. I am pretty surprised by the fact that the Army-Navy game is last at 3%. That's our unsportsmanlike moment of the day. Listen to Unsportsmanlike every weekday morning at 6 right here on 97.3 ESPN with Evan, Canty, and Michelle. And don't forget, starting on September the 2nd, the Rich Eisen Show is coming to 97.3 ESPN weekdays from 12 to 2 on 97.3 ESPN. You're home for Eagles football. The Eagles 53-man roster, it must be set by the time you hear my voice. That's next. All right, Football to 4 powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. It's brought to you by the Fanatics Sportsbook at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. Go for the win. For more information, visit oceanac.com. All right, the Eagles' final initial 53. We like to say initial 53. Anaya Smith, we know. Avery Williams, the kick and punt return specialist. He is the latest. It looks like Nakobe Dean is going to be on the PUP list. He tweeted out, we'll see you in week 5. Not a lot of other big names as of yet. Adam Caplan from the Inside the Birds podcast set to break it all down with us right now. As we know, Anaya Smith is probably the biggest name of the day so far, unless anything is crazy happened since you just got onto the line there, Adam.
Yeah, Mike. For those of us who really know what's going on, we're rarely surprised by anything because you kind of know where things are headed. Now, there are curveballs and there are draft picks with Howie Roseman, the Eagles general manager. He likes to keep them, not always, but they have a high percentage of keeping the draft picks more than other teams. There might be a surprise or two. You mentioned Anaya Smith. Would not surprise me. Well, actually, it would be a surprise, but it wouldn't be a shock. If Cameron Williams, who's a right tackle, who's a 6th-round pick out of Texas, who the Eagles are very high on. I know he didn't have a great summer. He's a developmental player. That's the one that I think has a chance of surprising people. We've heard some stuff in the last week that he actually may be on the roster. We'll see. Again, we don't know yet, and we'll break in, Mike, as you and I talk here. If once the Eagles announce this stuff, we'll be able to give you what you need.
Yeah, so obviously the one name today that I guess had a shot to make the team was Smith. Did the Mechie deal kind of seal his fate there?
It did, kind of in a way. When Howie trades for a player, why would you cut him, right? Yeah, I think that had something to do with it, no doubt. I went back and forth on Anaya Smith. I had 4 iterations of my 53-man roster. I had him off 3 times, and the last one I had him on, so I didn't get that one right. Here's the thing that disappointed me with Anaya Smith. For all we heard about the specialty plays from Texas A&M, never really saw it, Mike, in training camp. It's like with Avery Williams, who I did not have in my 53. You know what Nick Sirianni said about, he kind of bragged about him at the owners' meetings? Never saw it in training camp, Mike. That to me is a big reason why I took him off my 53-man roster.
All right. How about Avery Williams? He obviously was a guy that they signed possibly to be the return man on this team. Just never really got any traction, it felt like, during training camp.
No, that's what I was just talking about, Mike.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was Avery Williams. The thing is, let me just add one thing with Avery Williams. This guy's a former corner, transitioned to receiver. He's a smaller guy, but got really good short area quickness. And the other thing that disappointed me was you didn't sign to be a backup personal protector. They signed him to return punts and or kicks, or both, and to be a sort of gadgety specialty receiver. Didn't see anything out of that. And by the way, Britton Covey was waived by the Rams. I just wanted to add that part to what we just talked about.
Gotcha.
Dylan McMahon, by the way, former Eagle, was also waived by the Rams.
All right, so some of the names that we obviously know already. We mentioned Anaya Smith, Avery Williams. And then yesterday there were some names that already came out. The one would be in the quarterback, Kyle McCord. Kind of get your thoughts on the quarterback situation. They went out and traded for Sam Howell. Was that more they just didn't like what they saw from McCord, or was that more the injury where, Tanner McKee might not be able to play the first week or so?
McCord was not going to be on this football team. It had nothing to do with Howell. To start now, let me just explain something. You and I have known each other for a number of years. I came up with the phrase. You know this one. I know Andrew DeCecco likes it. Jeff likes it. OTAs are AA baseball. I put nothing into it, literally nothing. Show me whatever you did in the off season that you could do it in training camp. Well, that was the problem with Kyle McCord. Couldn't do it. Just did not look right in training camp. He's the kind of guy, Mike, if he does not get the ball out of his hands quickly, he just can't function because he does not drive the ball downfield at all. And he just never looked good, to be honest with you. That's why I didn't have him in my 53 when the three of us did our show on Monday morning. Couldn't put him on there. He didn't deserve to be on it. I know he's a quarterback. Look, there's a realistic chance he doesn't get claimed tomorrow. We'll know by the waiver claims have to be in by 12 o'clock. We'll know by 12:15 tomorrow whether he gets claimed. But I just didn't see it, Mike. I got to be honest with you. I know the Eagles were disappointed. A lot of people who knew Kyle growing up He's from the area.
Yeah.
Just never happened for him, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and then, Eli Ricks was a corner. He's been here for a couple of years. The fact that they got rid of him and kept some of these other guys at a position that I guess is not firmly decided yet. Not a huge surprise there, but it shows you that he was at least behind the other group of guys that doesn't even have a definitive winner right now.
Yeah, it is. Well, if the season starts, this week or next week, and it starts next week, Adoree Jackson will be starting opposite Mitchell. But Mike, it's not good enough. Adoree Jackson's okay as a placeholder. It's just not good enough, and we kind of know. Mike, we've talked about Kelee Ringo now for 3 years. If he's on the roster, it's A, because he was drafted. B, it's because he'll play special teams where he's really good. Ringo turned out to be exactly what I said he would be, more of a fourth corner, if you have your druther, so to speak. He just didn't perform, and Adoree Jackson's okay. Ideally, you'd rather have better length. He could still run, by the way. That was a big thing for him to show he could still run. He can. But they're just not good enough at that corner position. We've said on our show that they were looking into it to see if they could find a corner that would be a potential upgrade over Jackson. Doesn't look like it's happened, but let me make this perfectly clear. Free agency is not over. You have the rest in September, October. You also have the trade deadline. The Eagles know that they have to be better at corner opposite Mitchell. And if the opportunity presents itself, we know that they'll try to get it done. We'll see.
All right, Adam Capel's here, Football at 4. Nothing crazy so far. Yesterday, Kenyon Green, they did trade for him. He was part of that C.J. Gardner-Johnson trade, but that got to tell you that has to tell you that he really must have struggled. As you said, you traded for the guy. You didn't even think to keep him around and further develop him.
You nailed it, Mike. That tells you. Transactions always tell a story. If the team cut the player, who's, by the way, subject to waivers, they clearly don't want him. Kenyon Green just never did anything. He rarely ran with the twos. I think when he came back, he did from a shoulder injury. It just didn't work out. And with Gardner-Johnson, it was $8.5 million, Mike. As we noted at the time of the trade, they were looking at shed cash, and then they drafted Makuba to replace him. Who, by the way, could wind up being a better football player. Look, he's a guy's never played in an NFL game yet, regular season. You got to see the thing through before people overreact to that. He can't be better than CJ. He actually has better size. He's a little bit longer. He's got really good ball skills, but we're not going to know about Makuba. And by the way, he's come back from his second injury now. We're not going to know about him for a while in terms of how good of a pro he'll be.
All right, so you mentioned that Covey got cut, Avery Williams got cut, Anaya Smith got cut.
Yeah.
Do you go out and make a call to Covey? I mean, who's the punt returner? Who's the return man on this team right now?
Right, I know. In fact, Jeff and I were texting about this. We were kind of joking, A.J. Dillon we know could return kicks, as he did in training camp. So, that guy could come from the practice squad. You just elevate him, whether it's Taylor Morin, Anaya Smith reclaims waivers, you sign him to the practice squad. They'll have somebody returning punts and kicks, Mike. That'll happen. So there'll literally be dozens of punt returners available Wednesday that either not claim through waivers or who hit the street or veterans that are cut. But it's a fair point. Well, you got to get somebody. Now, it doesn't mean Avery Williams won't go back to the Eagles practice squad. We'll see. They owe him a little bit. There's some guaranteed money. But that Avery Williams one, definitely disappointing. I shouldn't have listened to Sirianni. I'm not saying he did want. Look, he made a statement. He spoke about the guy for 3 minutes. He clearly wanted something to happen.
Yeah.
But it never happened, Mike. And by the way, John Mechie.
Yeah, go ahead.
Mechie he can do. Personnel guy told me he definitely could return punts if you want him to. But that's not what you would want him to do, to be honest with you.
There was a running back that they got from San Francisco during one of the OTAs 2 years ago that Sirianni singled out, and everyone's like, "Oh, he singled him out," and then he got cut. I can't even remember who ended it. Did he play for the Colts last year?
Ty Davis Price?
I don't think that's.
Trey Sermon.
Yes, Trey Sermon. Yes.
He actually did. Look, here's what happened. He got hurt. If you remember, it was. I can't remember now. I'd have to look it up. He definitely got hurt. The injury I was told was real. He either got hurt in the preseason or regular season. I don't remember. Then you're right, Mike. You mentioned the Colts. He actually went to the Colts and had to play a little bit. But yeah, it's look. At the time, coaches say what they feel, and it just never happened.
Right.
This free agency class, Mike, for the most part, has not quite worked out like the Eagles hoped it would. Some are going to make it, like Matt Pryor, But some really did not make it. 4 or 5 of these guys just simply have not performed.
All right, couple minutes left with Adam. I know the press conference is coming up in about 5 minutes. Killian Robinson, Montrell Johnson, Shunderick Powell, they cut those running backs. I would imagine that they're going to stick with Dillon, Will Shipley, and obviously Saquon. But any of those guys stand out enough that the Eagles would like to try to bring them back?
Yeah, Montrell Johnson, if he is not claimed off waivers, I would expect them to try to sign him back. Now, just to understand, once you clear waivers, you're free to sign with any team that you want to. I would expect the Eagles to have some competition for him. Montrell Johnson can return kicks, by the way.
Okay.
E.J. Jenkins, if he clears waivers tomorrow, I certainly could see him signed to the practice squad. And now here's the other problem. Now, we don't know about Kylan Granson. He's an athlete. He doesn't block well enough. So, Mike, we know that Jack Stoll and Calcaterra filled in for 2 years when Goddard got hurt. They need to find what's called a wide tight end, an inline tight end.
Yeah.
Jenkins could do some of it. He's a better blocker than Calcaterra, but Calcaterra's a better football player. That's why Jenkins was cut.
All right, so there's a little bit on the tight end situation there. And then really the last thing, Andre Sand was a name. I know Andrew liked him a lot, and that's another spot, safety, where maybe they're not done kicking tires around?
Well, Mike, right now, and again, they haven't released it, but we know it's Brown, it's Blankenship, it's Makuba, and probably Christian McCullum. You're never going to keep 5 safeties unless one of them could play nickel. Now, we know Makuba could do it. They did not have him do it in training camp. He played a little bit of dime. I don't see them keeping 5. I'd just be surprised. I just don't see it. I had McCollum over Sam. Now, we know Andrew reported yesterday that Sam was cut. We're assuming McCollum made it. Again, the Eagles have not released their initial 53, or we call the fluid 53.
Yeah.
That's the best thing because it's going to change. It always has and always will, Mike. But
that is for sure.
I'm looking forward to finding out. I think we're all me, Jeff, and Andrew have the 60 linemen: Ojomo, Davis, Carter, Young, Robinson, Gabe Hall.
Yeah,
we're expecting that. Now, Azeez Ojulari, because of his contract, probably will make it. But if he doesn't, boy, that would tell you they clearly were willing to eat the money. That's going to be a fascinating one, whether Azeez Ojulari makes it or not.
Yeah, the last guy that had a little bit of buzz was Terrace Marshall, and I guess could he be the who was the guy they signed last year from the Colts? Another Colt guy that I can't remember. The wide receiver, the veteran.
Paris Campbell.
There you go. Could he be a Paris Campbell?
Yeah, on the practice squad, Mike. I'll tell you what. He had a great OTAs again, off season. Training camp, got off to a good start, then got hurt, and when he came back, just didn't have the juice that he once had. So, to me right now, Mike, John Mechie, Darius Cooper, now, unless they pull a surprise, we've been expecting for 3 weeks, or actually 2 weeks, Darius Cooper to make it. Should be at receiver Brown, Dotson, Smith, obviously, Cooper, Mechie, and they may only keep 5, Mike.
Yeah.
They may only keep 5. We will see. Actually, right now, I think 5 seems to be fairly certain at this point.
All right, Adam Caplan, I know the presser about to start. Howie Roseman, Nick Sirianni, they will speak after the initial 53-man roster is set. We'll have that for you here in a couple of moments on the Sports Bash. This is Football at 4. He's Adam Caplan from the Inside the Birds podcast, which you can get on all podcasting platforms with reaction to the initial 53. Adam, appreciate it, man.
Thanks, man.
There's Adam. Of course, he'll be back on Friday when we know the final 53, and we'll have that for you here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. All right, we are going to be carrying the Howie Roseman, Nick Sirianni press conference coming up, which means Nick's Nuggets is moving to 5 o'clock today, so we'll have the Nuggets. There is some news with the Phillies. According to reports and the Phillies themselves, Joe Ross has been released following last night's game, and Jordan Romano has been placed on the injured list with right middle finger inflammation. How apropos is that? Daniel Robert and Lou Trevino, who we did talk about earlier today during the mailbag segment, have been called up. So Trevino and Daniel Robert are up for the Phillies. Let me give you the Phillies lineup. It is brought to you by Instant Services, South Jersey's premier HVAC, plumbing, and electrical service provider. Go to instantservices.com to learn about their preventative maintenance memberships and how you can keep your systems running year-round. The Phillies lineup just dropped after all those roster moves, and the lineup tonight for the Phillies, as we mentioned. Joe Ross has been released. Jordan Romano has been placed on the injured list. Lou Trevino is up here, as is Daniel Robert. The lineup for the Phillies tonight, it is what I talked about earlier. I think I got it exactly right. Trey Turner, Kyle Schwarber, Bryce Harper, JT Realmuto, Alec Boehm, Nick Castellanos, Harrison Bader, Edmundo Sosa, and Weston Wilson. That is the Phillies lineup tonight. And, of course, the Phils take on the Mets in Game 2 of the series. All right, when we come back, we hope to hear from Howie Roseman, Nick Sirianni next, right here on the Sports Bash.
Phillies continuing their series with the Mets tonight at Citi Field after a 13-3 loss on Monday in the series opener. Philadelphia had a 3-0 lead, but they allowed 13 unanswered runs. Tonight, Jesus Luzardo will start for Philadelphia, 12-6 with a 4.10 ERA. Sean Manaea going for the Mets. He's 1-2 as an ERA of 5. The Phillies have lost their last 8 games at Citi Field. Philadelphia's 2026 schedule was released, and they will open up the season against the Texas Rangers at home on March 26th. The city also hosting the All-Star Game on July 14th. The Eagles will have their roster down to the 53-player limit by the end of this afternoon. They will open the season on September 4th, a Thursday night game against Dallas. One of the cuts is 6th-round draft pick Kyle McCord out of Syracuse. The quarterback had an up-and-down preseason. Progressive Insurance, bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive. I'm Tony Desiri, and that's your Sports Flash on 97.3 ESPN.
How about this weather, huh? Hey, with your South Jersey weather forecast, I'm Joe Kelly. We have a nice afternoon going into a nice evening across South Jersey. Tonight we'll have partly cloudy sky, low temperature about 57. Tomorrow looks just perfect. Lots of sunshine, high temperature about 78. And honestly, through the rest of the week, actually through the Labor Day on Monday, we're not looking at any rain. Sunshine each and every day, highs in the mid to upper 70s. That's your South Jersey weather forecast. I'm Joe Kelly.
All right, 423 Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. We got you the Phillies lineup back there. Coming up next, you'll hear from Howie Roseman, Nick Sirianni. They're supposed to speak any minute now. 4:15 was the scheduled time. By the way, the Eagles set their they have released their the following players. They have set their initial 53. Patrick Johnson actually did not make the team. Kendall Lamb, Terrace Marshall, Perry Nickerson, Avery Williams were released. The following players were waived. We talked about a lot of them during football at 4. No big names on the waive list. Kyle McCord, Eli Ricks, Jerome Robinson, who they just signed the other day, Andre Sam, Anaya Smith, Nakobe Dean placed on the physically unable to perform list, and Miles Hinton on the reserve injured designated for return list. So there you go. That's the update on the Eagles roster. So nothing crazy there. Over to the Phillies news real quick. Jordan Romano has been placed on the injured list with a right middle finger inflammation. Jeez. Could they come up with something better than that? And then Joe Ross was released. Trevino is up, and he is now with the Phillies. And we talked about him last hour, by the way. Trevino and who was the other guy? That guy. Daniel Robert. Robert's the guy they got earlier in the season from the Texas Rangers. So there you go there. As soon as Sirianni and Roseman come up to the podium, you'll hear from them. And I'm sure they're going to get asked questions about, like, our board trades coming. Corner edge rusher is another spot there. Patrick Johnson, a little bit, I guess, when you think about, Adam talked about it. Ojulari makes enough money that maybe they didn't want to, the contract that he signed, maybe they didn't want to get rid of him. So we'll hear from those guys in just a matter of moments here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. You're home for Eagles football. I guess one of the questions is who returns punts on this team. They do not have a punt returner. Right? They released Avery Williams, was a guy who they signed specifically for that role, and now he is not here. Now, Britton Covey got released by the Rams. That's a guy I guess they could go call. But they really don't have a guy on this roster who is a punt returner. as the guys that we mentioned that did not make the team, Avery Williams, Terrace Marshall, those are the 2 wide receivers, and then a bunch of guys that, the only guy was Anaya Smith. Anaya Smith was one guy who could possibly be in that role. But we'll see who the punt return is going to be. I'm sure they'll be asked about if they're going to look to bring back somebody like that. The other spot, we talked about Patrick Johnson. He had a couple of sacks in the game. There's not much more he could have done to try to say, hey, I deserve to be on the team. Plus, he's a good special teams player. I guess Cooper DeJean could be a guy, by the way, that could return punts. I don't think they want to do that, but I guess he's a guy that could potentially do it. Text message here. Definitely get Covey back. Yeah, I guess he's a guy that they could. I mean, we when you have a guy that you are familiar with. Mike, what's the difference between waived and released? If you are waived, you have to go through the waiver process, meaning there's an order that teams can claim you on waivers. If you are flat out released, you are free to sign with anybody. So if you're just released, you don't have to wait through the waiver claim. The waiver claim, I think, starts tomorrow. Not 100% sure on the time frame. I think it's tomorrow. They have to go through waivers, and it's basically, the worst team gets the first crack at them. I guess they go off of last year's standings. And if you say, hey, this guy has been waived, Avery Williams, Perry Nickerson, Terrace Marshall, if nobody claims them, then you could put them on your practice squad. The rest of these guys who get released, Kenyon Green, he is free to sign with anybody. I mean, he doesn't have to go through the whole waiver process. So, the final 53, the Eagles have set. I'm trying to think about, you got Mailata, Dickerson, Juergens, Steen, and Lane. That is your starting offensive line. Fred Johnson, I guess Pete Kendall, Matt Pryor, those 3 guys, that's 8. You got Hinton, and am I missing an offensive one? Because the one guy they put, Miles Hinton, they put on injured reserve. Kendall Lamb, they actually ended up releasing. They got rid of Kennard. So, yeah, there's a couple of interesting moves in there. It was supposed to be, a day that you didn't think anything crazy was happening, and so far, nothing crazy has happened. So, we're keeping an eye on, by the way, when Roseman and Sirianni come to the podium. And when they do, you'll hear that right here on 97.3 ESPN. By the way, Knicks Nuggets, that will be coming up at 5 o'clock today. We'll go over the Philly stuff. We'll go over the Eagles stuff here. And we'll keep it all going with you guys on the text board, 609-403-0973. Let us know. I don't think there is any crazy Eagles move that happened. I mean, the next move would be the crazy one. I don't say crazy, but Cameron Williams makes the team. He's the other guy. I couldn't remember. They drafted Cameron Williams. He would be the other guy, but I guess that means I didn't see Keegan's name. Trevor Keegan, I guess, made the team as well. So that would be another guy there. So that's at least 9 offensive linemen. According to some reports, the 53, that looks like this, okay? Let me count this out now. Hurts, McKee, and Howell, 3. Barkley, Shipley, Dillon. Van Sumeren. Brown, Smith, Dotson, Mechie, and Darius Cooper has made the team. Goddard, Calcaterra, Kylan Granson. Mailata, Dickerson, Juergens, Steen, Lane Johnson, Fred Johnson, Matt Pryor, Pete Kendall, Brett Toth, Trevor Keegan, and Cam Williams. Smith, Hunt, Uche, Ojulari, and Okoronkwo. That's always a tough one, right? He makes the team. And let's see, what else? Real quick here, because they have now reached the podium, and we will have that for you in just a second here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. I'm just going through Carter, Davis, Ojomo, Robinson, Hall, Young, Bond, Campbell, Trotter, Mondin makes the team. Mitchell, DeJean, Ringo, Jackson, Bennett, McWilliams, Blankenship, Makuba, Brown, McCollum, Elliott and Mann, the punter and the kicker. There we go. Here we go. Here is Howie and Nick Sirianni here on the Sports Bash.
With each and every one of them. Coach and I sit down with each and every one of them and have conversations. And although it's hard, just really appreciate the opportunity to do that with all those guys.
Coach, I was working really the same thing, how hard it is on you and your staff with these guys every day. And, just talk about how hard it is.
Yeah. First of all, it's, you build relationships. That's the whole thing we're in this, it's why we're here in the first place, right? To help guys achieve their dreams, achieve their goals. I think that's the reason I got into coaching. And so you build those relationships with guys, and then you have to let, how many?
I was 37.
Yeah, then you have to let 37 of them walk, which is always hard. And I try not to.
38.
38, yeah. So
I'm second guessing me.
Yeah. So, it's always, you build the relationships, you work on that from day one of OTAs all the way until we are right now. But I don't for a second, Howie and I have to do that 38 times, which is hard. But I don't ever let myself think, man, it's going to be a lot more hard on that guy than it is for me. So I don't want to play the victim here at all on that, because I know, they're the ones going through that, and it's going to be a lot harder on them. But it's not an easy thing, and for all those reasons that I said. And, everyone has a role on this football team. Everyone has contributed to this football team to date. And some guys you continue on with, and some guys you don't. And that's just the nature of this, unfortunately. But appreciate all their contributions to helping us get to where we are right now and be ready for the season.
Why did you trade for Sam Howell?
We remarked this is probably the only press conference we also do all year that is actually a 50-50 split. We traded for Sam Howell. We know the player really well, spent a lot of time on him coming out. Ironically, I think the only college Thursday night game I've gone to in the last 10 years was Pitt, North Carolina, and we ended up getting both those quarterbacks, which is ironic, like I said. So we had done a lot of work with him on him coming out, saw him firsthand as a starter with Washington. Obviously, he had tremendous success in those games, had a lot of appreciation for him as a player and his talent level and the person that he was, spending time with him. So a guy who's always on our radar, and just felt like for our team right now, the hardest part for us is trying to balance the development of players, the development of young players who we like, and doing whatever we can to go out and defend our title and to put the best team forward here for Dallas and going forward. So I think everything we're doing with those parallel paths and trying to figure out where we can get away with developing some guys that we think can help us in the future, and where we can help the team in the short term and make sure that we are covered. And so in this instance, just felt like Sam had a lot of value for our team right now. That doesn't say we don't like our young quarterbacks who are here, that we don't have great hope and promise for those guys, and we'll just see what happens in the next 24 hours, where we go about getting some of these guys back. But just felt like it was the right thing to do here for the short term to make this trade and bring Sam in.
How about the trade for Fred, and why not just sign him when he was here in the offseason?
Bless you. Yeah, I think that's I think from our perspective to just go, why not sign him? There's also in his mind, he understands that we have 2 all-pro level offensive tackles. He's in a stage in his career where he played really well and he was looking for an opportunity. So, just because we didn't sign him doesn't mean we weren't trying to sign him. And I think for him, He was looking to see what he could do somewhere else because of the situation that we had. And when the opportunity arose to bring him back, we jumped at it. Just someone that we feel really good about having here. That offensive tackle position, just like the quarterback position, you can never have too many of those guys that can come in and play for you over the course of a season. We're trying to play, a lot of games here. And so over the course of those games, you're going to need guys to step up in backup roles, and Fred's shown he can do it at a championship level, and so just was really excited to bring him back.
Howie, specifically with McCord, and both of you specifically with Kyle McCord, did you see qualities that, make you look forward to trying to develop him if you can get him back?
Yeah, I think he had, did some good things and promising things through camp. Obviously, we liked him enough to draft him onto this football team. And, I always battle that myself of like, how much opportunity can you give, your threes? And so, yeah, he shows good promise of where to go with the football consistently. And again, we're looking at everything, right? Practices, meetings, games, all the things. He has the ability to be accurate, and he does a lot of good things. And so my job as the coach is to try to provide them opportunities to be able to continue to develop, and always thinking about how we can do that with our young players. We got a great front office as far as in our development of players. We have great coaches to help develop players. And just that's what I'm always thinking about with those, like, how do we get them more opportunity? How do we do different things with them? And that's not just Kyle. That's all our, threes or practice squad guys of that sort.
You ended training camp with a no clear starter at cornerback at opposite Quinyon Mitchell. You added Jacorian. What lessons did you learn from just what you were evaluating in-house at the start of the year in Keeley, and how that dictates how you go about the offseason?
I don't understand the question. What lessons did we learn about Keeley?
I mean, what did you see in Keeley? Where was the drop off from what you expected was going to come out, and how you handled?
Yeah, I don't know. In terms of a clear-cut starter, I think that we got a bunch of good players at the corner position, and so I don't think that's necessarily a weakness on this football team. I think that we start by having an outside corner in Quinyon, who we think is ready to take another jump, and unbelievable player. We have another corner in Cooper DeJean, who we think, again, one of the best young corners in the league. And so feel very fortunate to start that position there, and I think that sometimes we look at weaknesses in terms of strengths. I've been here a long time. To have two young corners like that, that's a position of strength. And then we have a lot of guys at that position who are young, who have a lot of talent in their body. I'm excited about the corners that we have on this football team. So, I kind of look at it a different way. When you look at those guys, they have different skill sets. They have different strengths. You talk about Keeley. I mean, Keeley is big. He's fast. He's strong. Keeley has shown that he's one of the best special teams players in this league, which I think is a huge thing for our football team. So I probably take it a little bit differently about that position. I think that that's a position that we have strength in numbers there, and I'm looking forward to seeing those guys play against Dallas.
With Darius Cooper, what's the backstory on how you guys were able to identify him, and what do you see as his potential?
Go ahead. As far as his potential, I think one thing I think about him is he has this ability. Not everybody has an ability to win one-on-one. And I think he's shown that through camp, that he has tools in his body to be able to win one. He's big, he's strong, he's quick. My take on receivers always, is the best guys have good body quickness and good play strength. And he has those things. Now, and the other thing I think he's tough, right? Because we know, we're gonna try to get the ball to AJ. We're gonna try to get the ball to Devontae. We're gonna try to get the ball to Dallas. We're gonna try to get the ball to Saquon in the passing game. And so some guys have to come up a different way, right? They have to come up with, doing some of the dirty work. And I think that, this guy is a really strong football player who can do some of the dirty work stuff for us. As far as our blocking, as far as special teams, as far as, he's got good speed to be able to clear things out. And really, when you have a guy like that, there's opportunities for him as well in the pass game that mesh off of some of those things. And so I'm looking forward to watching him continue to develop. Aaron has done a really good job with him. Kevin's done a really good job with him of helping him develop. And I think he's got some tools in his body to continue to develop. And so really excited, just really always appreciative of Howie and his staff of bringing in these guys. Like we've had a lot of free agents make this football team in the past 4 years since I've been here. Reed Blankenship comes to mind, Ben Van Sumeren. There's a lot of guys. I mean, I could go Brenton Covey, Eli Ricks. I mean, so they've done just such a good job, obviously, Howie and his staff in the draft. But what I think gets overlooked sometimes is, the work that happens after the draft. And then also to the coaches that are helping these guys develop, right? You bring in the right guys that have tools, and you bring in the right guys that love this game of football, that are tough. Those guys have a tendency to reach their ceiling. And I pride ourselves in that I'm not hiring any coaches that can't help these guys develop fundamentally. And we got a lot of good coaches on the staff too. So it's just a good combination to have. And I think Darius has benefited from that, and he'll continue to get better.
One more on quarterback. Did Tanner's injury and the short-term potential need, did that affect your thinking at that position?
We would have made the trade for Sam Howell regardless of any situation with our first two quarterbacks. We just thought it was an opportunity to improve in the short-term quarterback position, which, is obviously a hugely important position. And just for us, having those three guys, again, as we start the season, the opportunity to have those guys with the experience that they have in that room, we felt like it was in the best interest of the team for this season.
Going back to Darius Cooper, what was your first time seeing him, and how did you guys find him?
Yeah, a lot of credit to our scouting staff. When we talk about the draft and the draft picks and the front board, there's a lot of voices here, myself, Coach, are a big part of the front board, and our senior staff when we talk about it, our assistant GMs, our vice president player personnel. So really we give our scouts, our area scouts, a chance to put their names on free agents and go get those guys. And our area guys did a great job. Cam did an unbelievable job. I think Phil was a big part of that too. And you just watch him, and you see obviously, he's not playing the SEC, but you see that he's got talent. And when he came in here, just seeing how big and strong he is. I mean, we sat with him today, and he's sitting there in shorts and a t-shirt, and you're looking at him, and you're going, this guy has so much developmental qualities for us, and what a great kid. So obviously it starts now. We tell all these guys, there's no scholarships in the NFL. They got to keep earning it. But he's done everything up to this point to earn the opportunity.
Howie, now that you have your final.
What do you like about the defensive line as far as like the depth at edge rusher, and also a defensive tackle? I mean, two guys you kept were Gabe Hall and Byron Young. What did you like about those guys?
Well, two very different guys, Gabe Hall and Byron Young, and Gabe Hall's another credit to our developmental program. This is a guy that we followed, who, if he probably would have came out after his junior year, would have been a second-day pick. We got him as a free agent last year, and our guys went to work on him because he's got tools in his body. This is a big, long, athletic defensive tackle, and really spent last year on the practice squad developing those qualities. And think about some of the trades we made here. Two of the trades we made with Thomas Booker and DK were guys that we developed, here with our developmental program. And, that's the success of those. Obviously, we'll miss those guys, wish them on. But this is another example of that in Gabe Hall. And then Byron was an SEC player at Alabama who we knew really well coming out of the draft, third-round pick of the Raiders. We claimed him last year. He's heavy-handed. Really strong ability to really block destruct. And, I think for that's always a skill set that we're looking for in defensive linemen. You talk about the rest of that group, and We drafted Ty Robinson in the 4th round. And again, rookies, they keep developing. You're not looking for those guys. You're not expecting those guys to be fully developed when you get them. That's what we get them here for, and get in the NFL and develop them and see what their strengths and weaknesses are, and see what they can do in their first year. Some guys in their first year we're fortunate they play at a really high level. Other guys, it takes a minute for them to develop. And then our top 3 guys, we're very, very, very excited about our top 3 guys in that room. JC, Jordan, Morrow, those guys all look primed to have a great year. Incredible confidence in those guys at the defensive tackle position. And then you go out on the edge and you talk about Nolan and Jalix, starting there. Those guys just really tremendous competitors. Tools in their body. We saw what they can do in the playoff run last year. Really believe in those guys. And we brought in Josh, we brought in Aziz, we brought in O. And obviously we got Pat as well here. And just, again, I think some of these positions we look at like we got solid players across the board. We have tremendous confidence in those guys. And there's different ways to do it. Sometimes you do it with stars and you go down from that. But we feel like there's really good players in that D-line room across the board.
If I could follow up on, when you specifically, obviously we talk about a lot of guys that just make the roster or don't to stay, but you mentioned Carter. How does his presence and the future that you have with him conceivably affect how you've constructed the rest of that defensive line? He's out there for almost every play.
Yeah, I mean, Jalen's shown how dominating he can be as a player, and when you have that guy, and when offensive linemen are sliding to that guy, it creates opportunities for the guys playing next to him. You got to account for him. If you're going to block him one-on-one, he's got a great chance to win those matchups. I mean, he's that kind of player. He's a special player. And where Jordan is and Jomo, I mean, you guys are out of camp every day. You see those guys. They're in the best shape of their life. I mean, they look primed for a big year, and they're physically dominant as well. And so when you start with those guys and then what they do for you out on the edge, because you got to pay attention to those inside guys, because quickest way to the quarterback is a straight line, And so I think for us, you've seen it. You've been here a long time, Jeff. You've seen that over the last decade, and probably even a little bit more, the resources we put into our interior defensive line. It is a huge part of our team building, and feel like that is a chance to be a real strength for this team.
Howie, what in the past that Evans hadn't used Nick? How do you feel about the roster you're handing to him, especially given what the plan was back in I guess March?
Yeah, I would say this. I would say we're not done here. We're not done. We'll see what happens in the next 24 hours. I think I said this the last time we spoke. We got a lot of picks here, and we're happy to use those picks in the draft. But I think for us, the early part of the season, September, we got to see what we have, And if we need something, I'll do whatever I can to help this football team and be aggressive. And Jeffrey gives me that opportunity to do that. And so, I don't think that we're done. I don't think this is necessarily, this is a work in progress.
Not giving me the keys quite yet.
Yeah, not yet. No, he's going to drive. But we're going to continue sitting together. But I think that's where we got to be. And I would say this, obviously last year was a great year, and throughout the year we're trying to improve the team, and I think that even after the trade deadline, you're sitting there and you're going, hey, is there anything else we can do? Is there things that we can continue to do? So I don't sit here, no matter what the year is, no matter what the time of the year is, and feel content with what we're doing, and just we'll continue to look for opportunities. And I promise when I leave here, I will go back upstairs and we will be looking for opportunities tonight, tomorrow, and we'll continue to look through them, every day here until we stop playing, and then we'll take a couple-day break, and then we'll keep looking for guys.
Howie, what made you want to go get John Mechie? What did you like about him coming out of Alabama, and how do you see his fit?
Yeah, I liked a lot of things about his tape at Alabama. Coach and I, when we were watching him, went back and watched his Alabama tape too. He's a natural separator. He can play inside and out. He's really good at the top of the route. He's a really good route runner. He's got really good hands. Tremendous character. And I think that, You know, again, when I think about that receiver room, just really excited about that receiver room. And, you know, we'll see what we even get here in the next 24 hours as we go forward to kind of complete it. Because, again, we think of the roster 1 through 70, and we're not done completing that. So getting him, and, again, you guys are out every day. You see Dotson, and you see how comfortable he looks and how excited we are about him in the second year and having him over the offseason. He's a really good player. And so overall, just excited about that room.
As far as you mentioned, Okaranko and Patrick Johnson.
All right, there's Howie Roseman and Nick Sirianni. They are just getting ready to finish up there. The big thing, you know, we're not done here is what he just said recently there. We're not done here. We have picks, and I'll do whatever it takes to continue to improve this team. I thought that was the big takeaway. You heard him talk about Kyle McCord making the trade for Sam Howell and all that stuff. Not a surprising day for the Eagles, but you got some answers to the questions right there. All right, coming back, we'll react to that and the Phillies moves that just happened at the same time. As Joe Ross was released, Jordan Romano has been placed on the injured list with right middle finger inflammation. I feel like they had to throw middle finger in there, right? Daniel Robert and Lou Trevino, not Lee Trevino, are up with the Phils now. More Sports Bash coming up. At 5 o'clock, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN this hour, brought to you by Whitehorse RV Center, Williamstown, and Galloway. Don't miss the Red Tag clearance event going on now at Whitehorse RV, Williamstown, and Galloway. Your adventure starts at Whitehorse RV. I'm Mike Gill. We heard from Howie Roseman and Nick Sirianni, and not a lot there. I mean, Sirianni gave an answer about the punt returning situation. Yeah, we have an answer. We're just not going to share it with you right now. That was one of the exchanges that was kind of interesting. One thing that Roseman said was, we're not done here. We're not done with this roster here. So he did acknowledge that he's still looking to make some moves there, which not a surprise. They have some definitely things that they want to continue to improve on. Then the Phillies made moves today. Joe Ross has been released, and Jordan Romano has a injured middle finger, which is apropos. Let's bring in Nick Earnshaw for today's edition of Nick's Nuggets. They're brought to you by The Hub, gear that works as hard as you do. Lou Trevino and Daniel Robert are up for the Phillies as they kind of overhaul the bullpen with a couple of arms there. Let's go to the Nuggets now on the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, a drive-home edition of the Nugs.
Yeah, how about that? A 5 o'clock edition of the Nuggets. You gotta love it. Absolutely. So we'll get into a lot of stuff, especially with the Philadelphia Phillies there, Mike.
Yeah, obviously they make those moves today. Romano placed on the 15-day injured list with a right middle finger inflammation following the game. And I can imagine that when they told him you're going to the injured list, he gave them a right middle finger is probably what his response was. Joe Ross not much better last night, and he got released. I mean, some people were wondering because the initial report from Matt Gelb was that Ross got released. So it was like, wow, they picked Ross over Romano. Well, now we know why. Romano's been placed on the injured list. Although people would say, who cares if he's hurt? Why wouldn't you just release him?
Yeah, I mean, listen, with the Phillies, right, and you have Romano last night, who was awful. He goes into the 15-day IL with the middle finger injury. I mean, that couldn't be more symbolic that he goes to the injured list with a middle finger inflammation injury. I mean, it just doesn't get better than that. You can't make that up with the symbolism there. So that was fantastic. And that's where we'll start with Nugget number one with Romano and Bohm and the disaster at Citi Field last night, Mike. That was an absolute awful game to watch. Awful. First of all, you had the Romano inning. I know he gives up the home run. That was so predictable. It was the Phillies waving the white flag. But also in this game, I have a massive issue with Alec Bohm. At first, I was going to give him the benefit of the doubt. Okay, maybe there's something in center field that's bothering him in the batter's eye, whatever it may be. But come on, Alec Bohm complaining and causing a 19-minute delay over a couple of microphones out in center field. I mean, that's ridiculous. The Phillies also failed to put a single runner on base, I believe, until Bader came up. He walked into the top of the ninth, and then the Mets got up to 13-3. So that was like the start of the absolute disaster of that game last night. And Alec Bohm, I mean, that thing had been there, and the broadcast said it since 2017. Both microphones have been there since 2017. They've been there forever. And by the way, he didn't complain when he got a base hit earlier on in the game. So I don't want to hear any excuses. It was a lefty. I'm just saying.
Well, the lefty makes sense. I mean, you got a left-handed pitcher throwing out of the thing.
It was on both sides, though. The microphone was on both sides. He was the only one that complained.
I only saw the one.
Yeah, it was on both sides. There was two microphones out there on both sides. They took one off both sides.
So this is a weird situation. Bohm, obviously, he points out there immediately. I don't know what to think about this because Batalico said it's been there since 2017. There is no evidence of that at all. I have not heard anybody suggest that. Now, T-Mac said during the broadcast that they thought it was a TBS microphone for tonight's national broadcast. So if that's the case, that thing is not there all the time. If you looked at it on the replay, it was clear that it was a distraction. I mean, you could see it clear as day. It looked like a ring camera out there. So I can understand if you had a left-handed pitcher. Now, the question would be, how come none of the Met players were having problems with it? Now, somebody said, did the guys in the stands, like, mess with it? Like, turn it towards a direction? Because it was pretty clear from the angle they showed that there was a clear glare when Bohm was at the plate. Now, I don't know about anybody else. They never really showed it. I wish they would have showed a replay to see if there was glare or anybody else. It's weird that they didn't kind of go and look at how that thing was placed during the other at-bats, but it looked like at the time that Bohm certainly had a reason to say, hey, there's a light out there. Now, my question would be this. How the hell did it take 20 minutes to get that taken care of? He pointed right at it. You knew what it was. Get it off the field. Get it out of there. It could have taken all of 40 seconds to get that out. What took 20 minutes for them to say, there it is, Bubba? I don't understand what took so long.
I mean, I feel like he was frustrated because at first I was going to give him the benefit of the doubt, but then it just felt like he was frustrated. He got out. He's going to blame that. And we've had these antics with Alec Bohm before. That's what I got a little bit frustrated by, okay? Because, you're causing a 19-minute delay, but I'm with you. It should not have taken that long. I mean, it was pretty clear what he was pointing at out in center field. You knew what the problem was and what he was affecting him at the dish. So I understand where it was coming from, but it shouldn't have taken 20 minutes. So I'm with you on that point. But Bohm, I mean, no one else was complaining. The Mets weren't complaining. None of the other Phillies were complaining. I just thought it was like, really, dude? It was that bad? And then everything fell apart really after that.
Well, and listen, I agree. Nobody else seemed to complain. But my question is, when they showed the replay, it was clear that you could see that thing was glaring.
A little something, yeah.
There was no question about it. Like,
it's always Bohm, though. Why is it always Bohm? He's got to be the one to always complain about something, right? Like, why? Like, I like Alec Bohm a lot. He's a great player. He's a good hitter. But, man, come on. You ground out and you're going to blame something else. Come on.
Well, if that light, like, for instance, when you go to a baseball game, like a youth baseball game, and the parents out in the outfield and they have their headlights on, and people are like, yo, you got to turn your lights off. Like, that's a legitimate cause to say, hey, that's in my face there. Now, it's obvious where that thing was located. It would make more sense coming out of a left-handed pitcher's hand that it would be a problem. My question is that the broadcast should have had some sort of replay of other people and whether or not the Mets had the same problem with the light out there. That's the thing. Because if that's the case, then yeah, Bohm seems like, why are you the only one complaining about this? The question is, did somebody turn it? Did somebody move it? My other question is, why did it take 20 minutes? The umpire walked all the way out there, and he's like, oh, yeah, there is a microphone here. Look at that. Then he walks all the way back. Then he's explaining to Rob Thompson. Then he's explaining to Mendoza. It was like, dude, it was obvious that the thing was there. Just say, hey, can you please move? It's like you say to the parent, hey, can you please turn off
your
lights?
Car. That was one of the most bizarre delays I think I've ever seen. See, I've never seen anything like that. Nothing.
No, and look, so I'm looking at the video right now, and if you look at the video, it's pretty close to where the fans are. So you're wondering, did the fans kind of move it? Did they turn it? Did they touch it so that it went towards when the Phillies were up to the, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I listen. It was just like a little ridiculous in the moment. You know what I mean?
Well,
like it's always, the fact that it was Bohm.
Yeah, Bohm's an easy guy to go on, but take Bohm out of it. Let's say Bryce Harper complained that light's out there. Are you complaining about Bryce Harper complaining or?
Well, I got another beef with Bryce Harper. Do you want to hear my beef with Bryce Harper? I got another beef.
I guess he had Met shoes on. That bothers people. But if he went 3 for 5 with 3 homers with Met shoes on, we would have loved the fact that he rubbed it in their face.
No, he could go 5 for 5, 5 home runs, break the all-time single-game record, and I'd have a problem with Bryce Harper wearing the Mets shoes. Like, I understand he's got the rivalry pack. It's for his brand. He wants to wear them against opposing teams. He actually was on with Scott Lauber earlier on in the season talking about this rivalry pack with what he's going to wear against opposing teams later on in the year. This is the Mets one. It's not a great troll job, and I don't think it's that great of a marketing ploy. Also, like, you're going to wear the opposing team's colors. A little weird. I don't love it. I can understand why fans would be upset. Why are you wearing Mets cleats? That's just weird, to say the least. But
and he had Mets
it is what it
on
is.
Too. Yeah, the whole thing. Like, to me, listen, I'm like in the camp of when you wear a uniform, you have everything uniform. The whole thing with nobody seems to have a problem with him when he wears like the Fanatic green cleats.
Well, the Fanatic thing, at least that's Philadelphia Phillies. It's the mascot. He's paying homage to the mascot. I'm cool with that. It doesn't match at all. I understand that. But to wear the opposing team's colors, that's really weird. That's really weird. I'm sorry. I understand it's his brand, etc., the rivalry pack thing, what he's trying to do here. I don't know. I think that's a weird thing, too. That's nugget number 2.
Yeah, listen, the whole thing with the rivalry pack, I don't know that catches on. I don't know why that's even a thing. You're going to be like, hey, this is the rivalry thing. Go out and buy the cleats of the team you're playing against. I mean, come on. By the
is
way,
he trying to
find
troll?
a picture here from 2024, and there is no microphone out there. Now,
What are you talking about? There's 2 of them out there.
There's
you
a
don't see it?
microphone in left field, in the left center field, but not where it was last night.
I'm looking at it right there, right field as well. Do you see the thing sticking out? That's a microphone.
That's not in the same spot, I'm saying. The one last night was higher up.
They probably moved it, and that's probably what caused everything to go. But it looks like it's been there.
Right. It's not in the they're in the the one in left field you could see clearly is very easy to see. The one in right field is not as easy to see. It's lower in the corner. Last night it was further up the batter's eye.
Yeah, it was a little bit farther up, but it looks like they were still there. So I don't know. I guess it really bothered him in that at bat. First at bat didn't bother him as much. I know it was a left-handed pitcher, but it just had to be Alec Boehm to do it. I mean, that's the problem here. Because it was Alec Boehm, he has been complaining before, right? Like we saw him complain in the Mets series last year. I mean, last night felt like last year, didn't it? Because they were just getting blown out. It was over. It didn't feel like they were in the game after a certain point. It was just over, and the Phillies just had given up. I mean, that's what it felt like. It felt like last year again.
Yeah, I want to see. Metallico said last night that it's been there since 2017.
Yeah.
And that no one's ever brought this up before. I find that bizarre.
Yeah, I just, and the fact we go back to your question, why did it take 20 minutes to figure this whole thing out?
It too. What took 20 minutes? They identified it right off the bat. It was clear what they were talking about. Just say, hey, it's in the batter's eye. Can you do something about it?
Yeah, bizarre.
Now, Destiny Lugardo said that the parabolic mic was in the batter's eye. It looked like it got moved closer to the stands. So it appears that she said it seemed that someone did actually move it.
Could have got bumped. Could have got actually moved by a fan. Who knows?
Well, if you look at the actual video, I had it up there a little earlier, but if you look at where it was in the video, it appears that the fans – see how close it is to the fans here. You can kind of see, look, I'll move it there. You can see how close it is to the fans.
It's right there.
Here. So somebody could have kind of touched it, pulled it, and turned it to an angle that would have, in fact, gotten into the player's face.
Yeah. I mean, listen, hey, it's just something weird something weird always happens in baseball during the year for a delay, and this one takes the cake. I mean, this one just takes the cake. So odd.
And that being said, I do agree that the whole 19-minute thing, I think, the pitcher's sitting there for about 20 minutes now, not throwing. And at that point, I probably would have just said to Sanchez, look, tonight's not your night. 20-minute delay, you're not going back out there. I thought it was a mistake to send him back out there.
Yeah, it was. Last night was interesting. Tonight you get Luzardo on the mound. You got a heavy right-handed lineup because you're seeing Minaya. So it's going to be a fascinating one. They got to get this one. It's back down to 6 games, right? You want to leave this series up 8 games if you're the Philadelphia Phillies. That's what they need to do. They got to bounce back because they have not had a lot of success at Citi Field for a while now. And it goes back to last year's playoffs and even before that. So that's where you're at with the Philadelphia Phillies. All right, moving along. I guess nugget number 2.5.
If I'm losing the game, I'd rather lose it in the fashion that I lost last night.
Yeah, just send in Romano, give up the bomb, and then send him to with the phantom injury.
I don't have a problem. Okay, here's the thing. That's the pitcher that you're supposed to pitch in that spot. People are like, you threw up the white flag. The score was 6-3 in the 7th inning. You're not bringing in Kerr, Strom, Alvarado, Banks. You don't want to waste those guys in a game that you're losing. Right.
Yeah, they were down 3. I mean, it was
the guy you're bringing in that spot when you're losing as the game gets later. That's the guy you're bringing. The problem isn't who they went to. It's who they have to go to because he is the mop-up guy or he is the low-leverage late-inning guy. That's the problem. Now, he's not anymore. They put him on the injured list. But in that situation, you don't want to go to Kerkering because if Kerkering pitched last night and then he wasn't available tonight because he pitched in a game that you're losing 6-3 in the 7th inning,
Well, that's why it feels like the white flag, right? Because you're not bringing in any of those guys because you don't want to get back into the game, right? You're down 3 runs. You're kind of done. Put in Romano. Hopefully he can get out of it unscathed. However, that usually doesn't happen. I mean, I know he's the guy you got to go to there, but that's not going to happen. So that's essentially why you're waving the white flag, right? Because you don't want to waste arms later in the series where all right, this one might be out of reach. We bring in Romano. Maybe he can help us out and keep us in the ball game. But if not, all right, we're going to save our arms for tomorrow and the next day.
That's the thing, is you would rather Romano or Ross were your 2 decisions there. And for whatever reason, Romano's higher on the depth chart than Ross. They're both terrible decisions. But I would rather – you're down 6-3 in the 7th. I would rather they go to Romano or Ross there than Kerr or Alvarado. And obviously, you're not going to go to Duran in that spot. But
no, you're down 3.
You don't want any of the guys, right? You don't want any of the guys that could help you win 2 out of the next 3. You say, hey, listen, we're down 6-3. It's the 7th inning. We'll live to fight another day. We're going to win 2 games now. Well, if we come back in this game, great. If not, whatever. All we need to do is take 2 out of 3 in this series. So you go to Romano in there. The problem is it's Romano. If it's Max Lazar, he would be the guy pitching in that spot. Right. If it's Daniel Robert, he would be the guy. But they weren't here. Your options were Romano or Ross, and they're not great options.
Yeah, and, the Phillies do not want to give up on the fact that they overpaid this guy. It has not panned out. It hasn't worked. So you just got to keep going until it really doesn't work, and then put him on the IL with probably, it seems like, a phantom injury, a middle finger injury. Very symbolic there. I mean, it's essentially what happened. You release Joe Ross, and then Romano goes to the IL. Sayonara, they're pretty much done for the year. I mean, that's pretty much it.
By the way, a 1-year, $8.5 million deal. 1 year, $8.5 million deal for Romano.
That's incredible. Just incredible. And what was Joe Ross? He was about $4 million, right? Wasn't he this year? He got like a year, $4 million around there.
I got to be honest. I thought that was a solid move, getting a guy who's one of those swing pitchers. He could go 2 innings here, 2 innings there, spot start there. He has been terrible.
You know what this is looking like? It's just looking like a roster spot continues to open up for Taijuan Walker on the playoff roster. I mean, that's what this is looking like. You're losing, him to the IL, Romano. Joe Ross gets DFA'd. You're not going to have Alvarado. I've seen a lot of roster spots open here, Mike, for a guy like Taijuan Walker. I mean, it looks like he fits right into the puzzle.
Well, so far I haven't been able to find very many people to agree with you.
It's all right. It's fine. I'll live on an island over here until it happens. All right? All right. Let's move along. I guess Nugget 2.5, 3. We'll go to it. I want to jump in on your poll question from today as well. It's kind of off the discussion we had yesterday on the Nuggets with Pete G and all. So the question you put out today, you tagged me, and it said, I'm giving you 2 tickets. Which one are you taking? Field of Dreams game, Super Bowl, Army Navy, or the Masters? This is a tough one. However, I'm going Field of Dreams game. I think this is like the coolest thing ever. I don't understand how people wouldn't pick the Field of Dreams game. Now, Super Bowl, I can understand. People want to go see the Super Bowl, but that happens every year. The Field of Dreams game does not happen every year. Every one of those options, but the Field of Dreams game, happen every single year. So you have an opportunity to go to those games every year. The Field of Dreams game, you don't.
Now, are you surprised with the results so far?
Not necessarily. I'm surprised Army Navy's that low right now.
Me too.
Honestly,
I thought Army
I'm
Navy
stunned.
would definitely have like
a little more
right there in the mix. Only 3% going Army Navy. Super Bowl 46%, which I thought. Masters 33%. Now, what I did was I came up with events, more of event-based like stuff. Field of Dreams is an event. Super Bowl's an event. Army Navy's an event. The Masters is an event. Not like, hey, you get 2 tickets to a Phillies World Series game or a playoff game for the Flyers or Sixers or whatever. These are like one-time events. And Army Navy, I thought, would have done much better. Super Bowl, not surprised. But Masters, 33% over Field of Dreams. A little surprised by that.
I felt it would be closer than that, right? Like the Field of Dreams game's new. I understand people want to go to the Masters, the Super Bowl, but Army Navy, that's a tough. I've been to it one time. One time I've been in the Army Navy game, and it was incredible. I'm just stunned more people didn't pick that game because that game is insanely awesome, especially when it's held in Philadelphia at the Link. That's when it's really awesome. When it's in Philadelphia at the midway point between the schools, that's where it belongs anyway. So I'm shocked that it's that low. I can understand the hype surrounding the Super Bowl and the Masters. That doesn't shock me. I just felt Army Navy would up a little bit more.
I agree, and I've been to an Army-Navy game once, and when I went to the game, it was actually at Giants Stadium. I was a young kid at the time. I was probably somewhere between 10, 11. I could probably figure it out if I look back at the history of the Army-Navy game and see when it was played at Giants Stadium. But I certainly was surprised that only, 3%
3%.
Yeah, I was a little surprised by that.
That's stunning to me.
Now,
but
the
go ahead.
schedule for the Phillies came out today, but it has not announced that they are playing in that game. But they are playing the Twins on that weekend when that game is generally played.
Yeah, and they have off on the 13th. So it's not going to be that Thursday that you predicted. It's either going to, I think it's going to be Friday or Saturday.
I think it'll be Saturday because it's usually a Fox game. So it'll be Fox Saturday night, and it'll be there. But the question will be, do you play Friday in Minnesota, go to Iowa and play the game on Saturday, and then go back to Minnesota? I guess you'd have to be the Sunday night baseball game, maybe?
Could be the Sunday night game. I don't know that, but yes, the schedule was awesome. And I looked. The Phillies play the Yankees on my birthday again. I might have to go watch that game again. It's in Philadelphia this year. Wow. I mean, 2 years in a row. It's awesome.
So Army Navy was in East Rutherford.
Wow.
In 89 and 93. I think it had to be one of those two games. I just don't know. 97 it was there, but I was in college by that time, so I didn't go to that game. It was either the game in 89 or 93. They played there.
Okay.
So it looked like they played in Philly for 3 years, then East Rutherford, 3 years, then East Rutherford. Then they moved to Baltimore. Baltimore's a cool place to do the game too, by the way.
It is, but nothing like Philadelphia. I believe I went in 2013, so 20 years after you did was my first experience and only experience so far at the Army-Navy game. But, yeah, that should be higher in my estimation. All right, they're the Nuggets.
I'm surprised by that.
They're the Nuggets for you today, Mike.
All right. By the way, the votes are you got some time to vote at Mike Gill Show. You got about 10 minutes left if you want to go to at Mike Gill Show and vote over there. That's giving you 2 tickets to one of those events, Field of Dreams, Super Bowl, Army-Navy, the Masters. Which one are you going to? Right now, Super Bowl kind of running away with it at 46%. All right, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. And, of course, Nick's Nuggets are brought to you by The Hub, gear that works as hard as you do. Look at you with the new gear hat on. Look at that. Speaking about gear that works as hard as you do, you got yourself a new hat. I don't even have a hat like that.
I know. I'm special. I get to get a hat. That's what's awesome about it. I'm a hat guy, so I wear the hat.
I just noticed that about 2 minutes ago, by the way. You texted me and said you had a surprise. Was that the surprise? I'm imagining.
That was the surprise I was trying to tell you about.
Where's this surprise? And then all of a sudden I saw your hat.
Yeah, there it is. 97.3 ESPN merch right there.
Nice.
All
right, man. Well, we'll do it again tomorrow.
All right, man. I'll talk to you.
All right, Nick's Nuggets are brought to you by The Hub, gear that works as hard as you do here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. It's a busy weekend. We got college football. It's all starting off here on 97.3 ESPN. Plus, we got the Phillies on Sunday Night Baseball. You can listen to Sunday Night Baseball right here with the Phillies and the Braves. Listen to Sunday Night Baseball, Phillies, Braves. It'll be Luzardo and Hurston Walprep pitching in that game. And then Monday, we'll have the Phillies and the Brewers here on Labor Day. It's a Labor Day doubleheader. Phillies, Braves Sunday night, Phillies, Brewers on Monday, right here on 97.3 ESPN. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash. Coming up, all right, Phillies lineup. We'll update you on that and all the Phillies news, plus the Eagles have set their 53-man roster. We'll go over all of it next on the Sports Bash. 5:30 Sports Bash Live. Phils and Mets game 2 tonight. Luzardo on the mound versus Minaya. Phillies have fared well against Minaya generally. Phillies lineup brought to you by Instant Services, South Jersey's premier HVAC, plumbing, and electrical service provider. Go to instantservices.com. Learn about their preventative maintenance memberships and how they can keep your systems running strong year-round. Now, earlier in the show today, I gave you the Phillies lineup. I got it exactly right, by the way. I was happy about that because you never know. But I figured tonight would be a night where all the lefty hitters would be taking a seat, except for obviously Schwarber and Harper. Those two guys are in their normal spots. But obviously the outfield tonight is Wilson in left, Bader in center, Castellanos in right. It's Turner, Schwarber, Harper, Realmuto, Bohm, Castellanos, Bader, Sosa, and Wilson. So Sosa is in at second base over there for Bryson Stott. Now, if you take a look at the Phillies' batting averages against Sean Manaea, there was a possibility that you could have got Bryson Stott in the lineup. He has fared pretty well against Manaea. But overall, Castellanos has been the guy. He is 6 for 19 with 3 home runs against Sean Manaea this in his career. Trey Turner, 6 for 18. Bohm has been pretty good against him. So I thought maybe they could have put Sosa at third and played Stott. I didn't really think that was going to happen, but I guess if you wanted to, keep the numbers. Because if you look at the numbers, this is from our friends over at Phil's Tailgate. Castellanos, 6 for 19 with 3 homers. Turner, 6 for 18 with a homer. Harper, 4 for 14 with a homer. Bohm, 3 for 13 with a homer. Sosa's 5 for 10 with a homer. Schwarber, 2 for 8 with a homer. Stott, 3 for 7 with a homer. Kepler, 1 for 7 with a homer. Realmuto, 1 for 9. Marsh, 0 for 3. Wilson, over 2. But Wilson in the lineup tonight. He is in left field, and your outfield is Bader, who's never faced Manaea, and then Castellanos in right. So there you go. That is your Phillies lineup brought to you by Instant Services. And obviously, I don't say obviously, I mean there's a possibility you did not know that the pitching matchup tonight is Jesus Luzardo taking on Sean Manaea. So Luzardo looking for his 13th win. It's kind of an important game, I think, for Luzardo for this reason. He's got to show that he can handle pitching at Citi Field potentially. Now, we did get Cole from LBI texted in earlier. Yesterday we talked about the playoff matchups. Apparently we were wrong about that. They do not reseed in baseball. So it would be the Phillies playing the winner of the Mets-Dodger series if that's the way the bracket falls out. And then the winner of the other series, which right now would be Padres-Cubs, they would play the Brewers. So they do not reseed in baseball. So even if the Mets, who are the worst team in the playoffs, were to win that series, they wouldn't go play the Brewers, who are the best team. So the best team doesn't get the chance to play the worst team. It just brackets. So the 4-5 winner plays 1, and the 6-3 winner plays 2. So there is a possibility, because we were talking about earlier, well, maybe the Phillies don't have to worry about their problems at Citi Field because might not have to go to Citi Field. Unlikely. I mean, the Mets going to beat the Dodgers, and then possibly if they had to play the Brewers, were they going to beat both of those teams? Now, they beat both those teams last year, right? But would they have done it again? Now, well, that changes things. So that's why tonight, for me, Luzardo turns into a pretty big matchup. Because I want to see how Luzardo bounces back after last night's House of Horrors and then steps and toes the rubber tonight and says, I don't care about this place. I'm coming right after you. Now, by the way, let's take a look at the Metropolitan lineup tonight, which will face left-hander Jesus Luzardo tonight for the Phillies. And in the Mets lineup, it is Lindor, Soto, Marte, Alonso, Vientos. And by the way, you don't want Vientos to start waking up. He was a factor in the game last night. He has not had a very good year, but if you're a Phillies fan, you remember the fact that Vientos killed you last year in those playoffs. Nimmo, Taylor, McNeil, and Torrens is the 9-hole hitter, the catcher tonight for Sean Manaea. So that is the Mets lineup tonight. Lindor, Soto, Marte, Alonso, Vientos, Nimmo, Taylor, McNeil, and Torrens for the Mets tonight against Jesus Luzardo. So it's a big game for Luzardo. It is a big game for Luzardo in the fact that he needs to show that pitching at Citi Field is not a problem for him. Because, look, Christopher Sanchez, there's a reason last year he pitched game 2, and it wasn't because they thought he was the second-best guy definitively. Now, he might have been the second-best guy, but that might have been more because of his splits. And right now, he is the number 1 guy, home, road, no matter what. So you can't be having these problems if you're Christopher Sanchez and just saying, hey, I pitch better at home than I do on the road. No, I mean, you're the number 1 guy now. That's a different world. That's a different story. And, we were talking to Frank earlier in the show, and he wondered, is it the enormity of you're the guy now? You're the guy. And look, I think Sanchez is fine. Ultimately, Christopher Sanchez is – think about this, by the way. I was thinking about this last night. As Sanchez – it was before the game when he was actually walking out to the bullpen. And it's funny because T-Mac commented on it. I don't know if anybody caught this. They were playing this weird music, and I was like, this sounds like a – it was like a 80s sitcom music. And T-Mac actually said, oh, it kind of sounds like 80s sitcom music. I was thinking the same exact thing. But I was thinking as Sanchez was walking them out, because T-Mac was kind of narrating over the screen of, hey, he's the ace now. And I was thinking to myself, man, think about this, the improbability of this guy. And we talk about the improbability all the time. You sign Zach Wheeler. When you signed Zach Wheeler, nobody thought you were getting a Cy Young Award candidate. There's not one human being on planet Earth who thought Christopher Sanchez was going to end up being the number 1 pitcher on a team that's trying to win a World Series. Right? Nobody. This guy is about as improbable as you get. Christopher Sanchez is the ace of a pitching staff that is now trying to win a World Series. And this isn't to knock him at all. It's just how many people thought that was a possibility? When the Phillies acquired him, do you think they thought, man, this is the top of the rotation guy if I've ever seen one? Heck to the no. No way. By the way, his splits this year, home and road, he has pitched 15 games on the road this season away from Citizens Bank Park, and his ERA is 2.89. He is 6-5 on the road with a 2.89 ERA and a 1.2 WHIP. At home, he is 5-0 in 11 games. He has an ERA of 2.38 and a WHIP of 0.972. Strikeouts per 9, way better at home. He's just a better pitcher, obviously, at home, but not nearly the crazy splits as they were last year. He is still a pretty good pitcher at home and on the road. But I'm going back to when the Phillies signed Christopher Sanchez. And when they got Christopher Sanchez, and you're thinking to yourself, when the Phillies got him, I think he was with Tampa Bay. I think he started his career with Tampa, and the Phillies traded. I don't remember who they traded to get him. But when they traded for Christopher Sanchez, I think it was 2019, they got Christopher Sanchez. I can't imagine they thought, man, we're getting a top of the rotation pitcher. There's just no way. There's no way that they thought they were getting the guy that they ended up getting, which is unbelievable because they got 2 guys from them that turned out to be 2 players that they never envisioned being what they actually ended up being. And by the way, keep this in mind, too, for Sanchez. You want to hear something nuts about Christopher Sanchez? Next year, Sanchez, $3.5 million. You know what Sanchez is making right now this year? $2 million. $2 million. Next year, 3.5. 2027, 6.5. 2028, 9.5. 2029, $14 million. And 2030, $15 million. By the way, the Phillies have team options in 2029 and 2030. You think they're going to pick those options up? I mean, if he stays the way he's going right now. Now, those options can go up if he finishes in the top 10 in the Cy Young, which if he keeps pitching like he is right now, I would imagine he's going to finish probably right now number 2 in the Cy Young. So he should make a little bit more money. But think about that. The ace of your staff right now, $2 million. That's what he's getting paid. And we talk all the time about the amount of money the Phillies have into key players. Aaron Nola. So you're getting, for $2 million, you're getting Christopher Sanchez. On the flip side of things, the ROI that you're getting out of Aaron Nola, not great. And what the Phillies need is, you got a $2 million guy pitching like an ace, although he didn't last night. You've got Aaron Nola right now making $24.5 million. And by the way, he makes $24.5 million this year, next year, 2027, 2028, 2029, and 2030. Yeah. $24.5 million for Aaron Nola through the 2030 season. He'll be 37 years old. You know, the sad part about Aaron Nola right now is at 32 years old, he is not that old of a guy, right? It's not like he's a 36, 37-year-old guy and he's kind of laboring and breaking down here. He's not that old, 32 years old. That's one thing that the Phillies have to hope, that he's just turning the corner here, getting like a late start. You know, he had all this time off, and then he's kind of finding his way back. But I got to tell you, the way that he started this season is not encouraging. So real quick, somebody texted in earlier about Painter. If this opens up a spot on the 40-man for Painter, he has to be on the 40-man by end of day on August 31st to be eligible for postseason. So the way that I see it is this. If they put Wheeler on the 60-day, that should open up a 40-man spot, right? I think that's how that would work. Now, Romano going to the injured list and not getting released, that means they can bring up Max Lazar before the 15 days if they want. Remember we were talking about earlier that because Lazar got sent down, he has to wait 15 days. But if a guy gets hurt, you can bring him up. Now, they chose not to bring him up this time. They brought up Daniel Robert instead. But to go back to the question about the 40-man, I believe, don't quote me on this, but if, in fact, they put Wheeler on the 60-day, they can move him to the 60-day, that should open up a 40-man roster spot, and then they could use that for Painter if they wanted to. By the way, the Phillies traded a gentleman by the name of Curtis Mead, who I think is still playing. Does Mead play for the White Sox, I want to say? Right? White Sox? Curtis Mead was the gentleman they traded to Tampa. Now it's a guy who's made it to the big leagues. At least he's gotten to the big leagues. It didn't like he totally got ripped off. But yes, if they move Wheeler to the 60-day, then they can use it for Painter if they want to put him on the 40-man. I don't know. We were talking with Frank earlier in the show. The indication from him, anyway, is that now remember, when you do the September call-ups, it's not like it used to be back in the day, where you can just call up every single guy in your minor league system. You can't do that anymore. You only get 2. The rosters expand from 26 to 28. Frank seems to think that one of the call-ups is going to be Stubbs. That he would be up here. And that the other guy will be a pitcher, like Lazar. So he doesn't seem to think they're going to call up, like, say, Painter and Crawford. More like 2 guys that are the veteran types of players. 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. We told you earlier the Phillies' schedule for next year is out. For those of you about the Field of Dreams game, it is not officially listed on there. Nobody's like, hey, that's the Field of Dreams game. But the weekend of August, that has generally been the Field of Dreams game, they are playing Minnesota that weekend, so I'm going to put 2 and 2 together. Remember, the All-Star game next season is in Philadelphia. That will be July the 14th at Citizens Bank Park for anybody who's interested in trying to figure out how to get tickets or doing whatever you got to do to try to go to one of those things. That could be pretty cool. All right, 547 Sports Pass Live. This hour brought to you by White Horse RV Center, Williamstown and Galloway. Don't miss the Red Tag clearance event going on now at White Horse RV. Your RV adventure starts at White Horse RV in Williamstown and Galloway. I'm Mike Gill, and this is the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, and live video on the X platform, YouTube, at Mike Gill Show. Subscribe, like, share. Closing thoughts coming up. All right, busy week ahead right here on 97.3 ESPN. Everybody out there hopefully getting ready for the Labor Day weekend. The end of summer is here. When the end of summer is here, that means our schedule picks up. Thursday night college football on 97.3 ESPN. Cincinnati takes on Nebraska. That's a Big 12 versus Big 10 game now. Cincinnati, Nebraska, Big 10, Big 12. Friday night, Georgia Tech takes on Colorado on 97.3 ESPN. That's an ACC versus Colorado's in the Big 12, right? Who knows anymore? You're just throwing darts. Saturday, over on our sister station, Rock 104.1, it is number 1 Texas against number 2 Ohio State. That is a noon kickoff game. That will be on our sister station, Rock 104.1. Texas, Ohio State. Sunday, South Carolina takes on Virginia Tech on 97.3 ESPN. The Phillies and the Braves on Sunday Night Baseball. And then over on our sister station, Rock 104.1, it is Notre Dame and Miami. I feel like Rock 104.1 is getting the better games. They get number 1, number 2, Notre Dame and Miami. So make sure you get the app and listen if you're a college football fan. Also, Sunday Night Baseball, Phillies, Braves. Monday, the very next day, we've got Phillies and Brewers, plus the debut of Bill Belichick on 97.3 ESPN. And that'll take us into next week. The Eagles and Cowboys, Chiefs and Chargers, college football Saturday, Sunday. It all starts to pick back up. Appreciate everybody listening. Have a great rest of your night, everybody. This has been the Sports Bash.